Chapter 1432. At this moment, the price of the moonlight sky bamboo had long ago surpassed its original value. But this was not the end. 8 million. The fallen heaven sacred lands people continued to call out. The price of this moonlight sky bamboo had reached the level of a supreme quality divine artifact. Heavens, these two sides are truly at loggerheads, neither willing to give in. I wonder who will win in the end. Many people in the auction house were waiting to watch this show. A single moonlight sky bamboo worth less than 1 million was now being sold for an astronomical price of 1.8 million. Okay. In the guest stand, Zhao Feng was elated. He didn't think that his entrusted item would be so popular. If his other entrusted items could be sold for a good price, he would definitely be able to sell them for a good price. If he could sell the other items for a decent price, Zhao Feng might even be able to sell them all. The life-sacred land is still the same as ever, thinking too highly of itself. It seems like it won't easily retreat. The white-skinned man with black tattoos from the fallen heaven sacred land sneered. 9 million. He continued to bid. God Lord Verdant Origin's expression chilled. If this continued, even if he obtained the moonlight sky bamboo, it would be a massive loss. But he had taken a fancy to this precious material first. If he gave it to the fallen heaven sacred land, he would be losing face for the life sacred land. At this moment everyone, this moonlight sky bamboo, 2 million high-quality god crystals, how about giving it to this old man? An elderly voice came from the rightmost room, echoing through the auction house for a long time. What powerful space-time energy! Who is this person? Everyone in the auction house immediately began to speculate. From this person's tone, he was at least on the same level as the god lords of the two sacred lands. Coupled with his profound space-time intent, he was undoubtedly a god lord of the space-time sacred land. Okay. I'll give the moonlight sky bamboo to Senior Void Spirit. God Lord Verdant Origin smiled. Since God Lord Void Spirit has spoken, this junior will not compete. The fallen heaven sacred lands people also compromised. Their primary target was the life sacred land. Now that the life sacred land had given up, they naturally couldn't compete with the spacetime sacred land's God Lord Void Spirit. In the rightmost room a weathered elder in a gray-white robe had a calm expression on his face. Next to him was an icy woman with exquisite features. Luo Ling, with this moonlight sky bamboo, your strength will improve further. God Lord Void Spirit spoke with great concern to the woman next to him. Don't worry, Master. I won't let you down. Ancient God Luo Ling's eyes flashed with determination. The other side. 2 million high-grade divine crystals, Zhao Feng couldn't help but laugh heartily. That moonlight sky bamboo was not of much use to him, but now it was auctioned for a high price of 2 million. After the moonlight sky bamboo was auctioned off, the auction house also auctioned off a few other time-profound cultivation materials. 70% of this batch of time-profound cultivation resources were entrusted by Zhao Feng. Although these time-power materials weren't as precious as the moonlight sky bamboo, their quality was still very high. They were rarely seen in the outside world, so they were sold for a very high price. The majority of them were bought by the other half-step god lords of the spacetime sacred land. Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone. It can purify the soul and strengthen the soul. It's a divine stone that causes the soul to transform. It has a certain effect on even the souls of half-step god lords. The white-robed elder said with a smile. Treasures that could strengthen the soul were incomparably precious. For many races, increasing one's cultivation was relatively easy, but increasing one's soul level was extremely difficult. A treasure that can increase one's soul level. Zhao Feng was rather tempted. A few days ago, his soul intent had just reached the half-step God Lord level, and he still hadn't had time to consolidate it. If he could obtain a Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone, his sole intent would be completely consolidated, and he might even be able to establish a foundation for breaking into the God-Lord level. The starting price of the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone is 700,000 high-quality God crystals. Each bid must be no less than 10,000. As soon as he finished speaking, several people started bidding for it. 720,000. 730,000. 760,000. The demand for this sort of treasure was far too common, so many people were fighting over it. Even Xin Wuhan, God-Lord Evil Spirit, and the spiritual race's second elder were participating. Besides them, there were also experts from 5-star factions of other zones. The price of the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone quickly rose to 1.4 million. Gradually, the majority of people began to withdraw from the auction. After all, only half-step God-Lords or peak-ranked 9s could use this treasure to its fullest potential. Moreover, 1.4 million was already very high. 1.420,000. A half-step God-Lord of the Spacetime Sacred Land also joined in. 1.460,000. God-Lord Evil Spirit had not given up and was still bidding. He had come here not just to bid for a treasure for himself, but also to obtain some useful treasures for his race. 1.5 million. The Life Sacred Land's God-Lord Verdant Origin called out. This sort of treasure with such a common demand was even more popular than the Moonlight Sky Bamboo. 1.53 million. Zhao Feng made a bid. He had no lack of high-quality God crystals, but he wasn't very willing to compete with the Sacred Land factions present. At this moment, almost all the sacred lands of the 5 zones had 1 or 2 people interested in the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone. You won't get it. The old woman of the blazing gold race coldly laughed. Zhao Feng had repeatedly ruined her plans, so she should have been arguing with Zhao Feng this time. But seeing that the 5 sacred lands and many other 5-star factions were all fighting over this treasure, she did not participate. The price of the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone quickly rose to 1.7 million. This was an extremely high price, and the majority of people had already given up. 1.73 million. Zhao Feng continued to bid. Who's in that VIP box? He still hasn't given up even at this time. Does he plan to compete with the 5 sacred lands? Quite a few people in the auction house turned to Zhao Feng's room in confusion. Bzzzzz. At this moment, a powerful divine sense swept into Zhao Feng's room, startling him and Zhao Yufei. Although the room had an isolating effect, the divine sense of a second heaven God-Lord was extremely powerful and could easily penetrate it. It's you. God-Lord Verdant Origin called out in surprise. God-Lord Verdant Origin was a second heaven God-Lord of a sacred land and could be considered an expert here, so he naturally had no fear and used his divine sense to check Zhao Feng's identity. It is this junior. Zhao Feng messaged. The peace negotiations weren't very fair to the spiritual race. I won't compete for the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone anymore. God-Lord Verdant Origin messaged, and then he gave up on bidding. Zhao Feng was rather surprised. He hadn't expected for God-Lord Verdant Origin to give up after learning his identity. Although God-Lord Verdant Origin had explained the reason, he hadn't paid any attention to the spiritual race experts. It seemed like God-Lord Verdant Origin favored Zhao Feng. The Life Sacred Land's God-Lord Verdant Origin's decision to give up left even more experts astonished. From the looks of it, the people inside are definitely not ordinary people. Some people even guessed that there was at least a second heaven God-Lord inside. God-Lord Verdant Origin had just given up on bidding when another powerful divine sense swept over. The Spacetime Sacred Land. Zhao Feng's eyes focused on the rightmost room. A young man, peak rank 9. God-Lord Void Spirit was rather surprised. At the start, he also believed that Zhao Feng was at least a God-Lord or someone from a sacred land. Otherwise, why would God-Lord Verdant Origin have given up? Luo Ling, I spend most of my time in seclusion and don't know much about the outside world. Do you know anything about this person? God Lord Void Spirit manifested Zhao Feng's appearance. It's him. God Lord Luo Ling stared at Zhao Feng's appearance in surprise. Oh. It seems like this kid has quite the background. God Lord Void Spirit faintly smiled. He had a deep understanding of his disciple. How could an ordinary peak rank 9 make ancient God Luo Ling so shocked? Master, this person is called Zhao Feng, a genius of the spiritual race. It's rumored that he directly broke into rank 6, and this disciple is indebted to him. Ancient God Luo Ling truthfully replied. Upon returning to the spacetime sacred land, she had investigated Zhao Feng's background. Directly became a rank 6 ancient god. God Lord Void Spirit was slightly moved. Even the quasi-god prodigies of sacred lands rarely broke through to rank 6. Forget it. Your master is bidding for this treasure for your sake. God Lord Void Spirit sighed. In the auction house, the price of the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone was still rising. But at this moment, an elderly voice laughed. This old man will not compete. I hope that little friend Zhao will be able to obtain this treasure. God Lord Void Spirit has withdrawn. Just who is that person? First God Lord Verdant Origin gave up, and now the spacetime sacred lands God Lord Void Spirit has also given up. More and more voices of surprise could be heard in the auction house. The withdrawal of the two sacred lands made the bidders in the other guest sections curious. Even Zhao Feng was rather surprised. He shouldn't have had any relationship with God Lord Void Spirit. This time, Zhao Feng couldn't restrain himself. He activated the God's spiritual eye and looked into God Lord Void Spirit's room. It's her. Zhao Feng instantly understood. At the same time, buzz. Buzz. Divine senses of varying strengths swept toward Zhao Feng's room. However, only those in the first heaven with stronger divine senses could see what was going on inside. 8 million. Zhao Feng once more made a bid. Although this price far surpassed the value of the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone, Zhao Feng needed this treasure and was willing to pay a hefty price. Surprisingly, this time, no one continued to fight for it. Perhaps the withdrawal of the two sacred lands made the people of the other sacred lands pay more attention to Zhao Feng. In addition, the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone was most useful to those below the half-step God Lord level. Just like that, Zhao Feng obtained the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone for 1.8 million. 8 Supreme Sacred Heavens Technique, a top-tier divine-level cultivation technique. It was created by an almighty being of the Sacred Heavens clan in the primordial era, and it can be cultivated to the peak of the first heaven of the God Lord realm. This cultivation technique is extremely powerful, and it has the absolute ability to restrain cultivators of the evil Tao. The white-robed elder loudly announced. Heavens, a divine-level top-class art. Furthermore, it's a cultivation technique left behind by the Saint Heaven race, ranked 11th among the 10,000 primordial races. The countless experts present were all extremely excited. Good arts were extremely rare, and the power of the 8 ultimate sacred heavens art could not be doubted. It was also a great bane against cultivators of the evil path. It can be cultivated to peak first heaven God Lord. Zhao Feng couldn't help but be surprised, and he became a little interested in this art. One had to realize that the Chaos Heaven Void Origin technique he cultivated was only enough for him to become a God Lord. Moreover, the 8 ultimate sacred heavens art had an impressive background. It was created by an expert of the 11th ranked sacred heaven race. Chapter 1433. The starting price of the 8 ultimate sacred heavens art is 1,500,000 high-grade divine crystals. Each increment must be no less than 10,000. Just the starting bid of the 8 ultimate sacred heavens art had already surpassed all the previous auction items. Even some of the most sought-after treasures were sold for less than 1.5 million. However, as soon as the white-robed old man finished speaking, several people quickly made a bid. 6 million. 62 million. 2 million. The price of the 8 extreme sacred heavens art rose at an unprecedented speed. In just a short while, it had risen to 2 million. Moreover, the vast majority of the bidders were half-step godlords or even godlords. During this period, Xin Wuhan also called out a price, but the price was rising too fast. The final price might exceed his budget, so he gave up. 3 million. A god-lord from a 5-star faction of the spacetime sacred land suddenly made a move, stating a shocking price. Even so, only a portion of people had given up. There were still many factions that were determined to get their hands on this cultivation technique. After all, a powerful cultivation method could bestow a cultivator with strength that far surpassed others, and it could even determine a person's prospects on the path of martial arts. Although top-grade divine artifacts were rare, they were still external objects. Thus, the value of a top-grade divine artifact far exceeded that of an ordinary top-grade divine artifact. In the end, the 8 ultimate sacred heavens art was auctioned off by a sacred ground of another domain for the price of 6 million high-grade divine crystals. The Chaos Heaven Void Origin technique can only support me until I reach the God Lord level. At that time, I'll have to find another art or create my own. Zhao Feng's expression darkened. He wasn't close to becoming a divine master, so he had to make plans for the future. If there was a God Lord level art suitable for him, Zhao Feng might take action. The 8 ultimate sacred heavens art was auctioned off for the highest price to date, causing a huge commotion. However, this was not the end. The following items were all extremely rare and precious treasures, some of them even exceeding the 8 ultimate sacred heavens art. The atmosphere of the auction was pushed to an even higher peak. The next item to be auctioned is the divine kingdom left behind by a peak first heaven god lord. It contains the power of the law of darkness, and everything inside has been preserved. Perhaps there are some precious treasures or secrets left behind by this god lord. The white-robed elder said with a smile. What? A divine kingdom of a peak first-tier divine master. It still has its original appearance. In the auction house, many experts were attracted by this auction item. Only a god master could create a divine kingdom, but the vast majority of people wouldn't keep a divine kingdom on them. Thus, when some divine masters perished, their divine nations still existed, becoming ownerless objects. Those who were fated might stumble upon a god kingdom and obtain the wealth left behind by the god master. And at this moment, the Divine Kingdom auction house was auctioning off an opportunity that countless people dreamed of. God Nation. Zhao Feng's eyes widened. He didn't expect that even God nations could be sold. If a half-step God Lord can refine a divine kingdom and inherit its energy, they have a 90% chance of directly becoming a God Lord. A God Lord expert whose law energy is compatible with this divine kingdom can also refine this divine kingdom into their own divine kingdom, making it indestructible. The white-robed old man added that the divine kingdom had its uses and value. Of course, using a divine kingdom to become a God Lord had its flaws. It would affect one's future potential. It was just that the auctioneer would definitely pick the good side to talk about. A divine kingdom can almost create a God Lord. No wonder the blazing gold race cares so much about the divine kingdom that Zhao Yufei obtained. If not for the white-robed elder's introduction, Zhao Feng would not have known about this. His goal in coming here was to bid for a treasure that could help him break through to the God Lord level. But this divine kingdom was a little excessive. This divine kingdom contained a law of darkness, which Zhao Feng was not skilled in. He had the spacetime robe and the ancestral artifact fragment, so he was most suited to walk the Tao of spacetime. On the other side, Xin Wuhan was also extremely tempted. But he had also guessed that this divine kingdom would go for an extremely high price. The starting price is 3 million, and each increment must be no less than 10,000. the white-robed elder announced. Because the divine kingdom had retained its original appearance, there might be many valuable things inside, so the starting price of the divine kingdom was as high as 3 million. 4 million. A god lord immediately raised the price by 1 million. But his bid was quickly drowned out. 4, 1 million. 4, 12 million. Bids were constantly being called out, and ancient Soul Hall's god lord Evil Spirit was also participating. 6 million. The god lord of the fallen heaven sacred land called out. 6 million high-quality god crystals instantly surpassed the previous bid of the 8 ultimate sacred heavens art. It was apparent that the fallen heaven sacred land was determined to obtain this divine kingdom. This divine kingdom was completely capable of creating a god lord. Moreover, the experts of the fallen heaven sacred land cultivated shadow intent, darkness intent, decay intent, and other evil and sinister intents. This divine kingdom contained a law of darkness, making it extremely suitable for the fallen heaven sacred land. Once it succeeded, it could help a peerless prodigy become a god lord, or perhaps even allow a god lord's strength to reach a whole new level. However, there were many evil path factions in the 5 major zones, and they also needed this divine kingdom. 6, 1 million. 6, 2 million. The price of the divine kingdom continued to rise. 9 million. The fallen heaven sacred land's god lord coldly said. This price instantly intimidated all the other bidders and caused countless people in the auction house to cry out in alarm. 9 million was already a very high price, and the fallen heaven sacred land placed great importance on it and would not easily let it go. Thus, all the other bidders gave up. Just when everyone believed that the fallen heaven sacred land had obtained this divine kingdom for the high price of 8 million, 9. 1 million. God Lord Verdant Origin softly called out his bid in a seemingly nonchalant manner. 9, 12 million. The fallen heaven sacred land's God Lord continued to raise the price. 9, 2 million. 9, 22 million. Damn! This divine kingdom has no use for the life sacred land's people. They're intentionally raising the price. A black-robed woman's eyes flashed with cold light. Even so, they had done something similar before. We must obtain this divine kingdom. The white-skinned man with black tattoos had a gloomy expression. 11 million. The white-skinned man's voice was cold and harsh, and it was trembling slightly. The people in the auction house were in an uproar. No one had expected that the price of this divine kingdom would be nearly double that of the 8 ultimate sacred heavens art. This divine kingdom isn't very useful to us, so we'll just let you have it. God Lord Verdant Origin said in a modest and magnanimous tone. Quite a few people from the fallen heaven sacred land almost cursed it out loud. Fortunately, this price was not too ridiculous, and they managed to obtain the divine kingdom in the end. In terms of face, they had won against the life sacred land. A divine kingdom was actually auctioned off for 11 million high-quality god crystals. Zhao Feng couldn't help but sigh. Of course, he was even more amazed at the wealth of a sacred land's god lord. After this divine kingdom was auctioned off, the following items were almost all extremely precious treasures. Each time, a sacred land would make a move, and the majority of the items would go for over 7 million god crystals. Moreover, the majority of these precious treasures were obtained by sacred lands. After this bidding war, the prices of the items in the auction house began to drop once more. But those who understood the market knew that the main event was about to begin. The previous auctions had consumed the funds of many factions and experts. The auction house was intentionally auctioning off low-value items to give them time to prepare. Golden Glass Axe, Supreme Quality Divine Artifact. Although it's somewhat damaged, it comes from the 21st ranked Blazing Gold race of the 10,000 ancient races. It's much stronger than the average damaged Supreme Quality Divine Artifact. Inferno Shield, damaged Supreme Quality Divine Artifact. Its defensive power is extremely outstanding, and it also comes from the 21st ranked blazing gold race of the 10,000 ancient races. Several of the items up for auction had been commissioned by Zhao Feng. As there were many damaged supreme quality divine artifacts, they were all auctioned off together. Just as expected, the old woman of the blazing gold race went all out to bid for the divine artifact that had been lost by her race. 6 million. Zhao Feng immediately made his move, occasionally raising the price. Damn! It has to be the spiritual race. The old woman clenched her teeth, but there was nothing she could do. When bidding for the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone just now, God Lord Verdant Origin had given this person some face. It was now likely that it was the spiritual race patriarch. 65 million. Zhao Feng knew when to stop and did not raise the price too high. He had been observing the old woman's expression this entire time. Every time the old woman hesitated, Zhao Feng would stop. Just like this, the divine artifacts that Zhao Feng had sold off returned to the blazing gold race at a relatively high price. With this, all the items that Zhao Feng had sold off had been auctioned off. I now have nearly 20 million high-quality god crystals in my possession. Zhao Feng couldn't help but rejoice. Of course, he had to thank the blazing gold race for this. He had taken these supreme quality divine artifacts from the blazing gold race and sold them back. Next up were a few tools with unique functions. These special tools had a certain connection to the Heaven's Legacy race. Almost all the trap and array masters of the ancient desolate realm of gods yearned for the Heaven's Legacy race, and the products they forged were inseparable from the shadow of the Heaven's Legacy race. Some of these special tools were expensive while others were cheap. The most expensive item could unleash the attack of a first heaven god lord, and after its energy was used up, it could be recharged. This special tool was sold for a high price of 5 million. Heavenly Demon Fire Dragon Blade, a top-class existence amongst supreme-quality divine artifacts. It contains a weak law of fire and a law of destruction, and its power can even destroy ordinary supreme-quality divine artifacts. It comes from the 9th-ranked Destruction Dragon race. Because it contained a weak law of fire and a law of destruction, its value far surpassed that of Zhao Feng's spacetime robe. After all, ordinary supreme-quality divine artifacts only contained top-class intent essences, and at most, a single law. The final price was 10 million, close to the price of the Divine Kingdom. Demon Soul Divine Jade, a precious demonic jade left behind by a demon Tao God Lord. After absorbing and comprehending it, one can form a unique demon Tao soul body. Demon Soul Divine Jade could transform a person's soul into a unique demon Tao soul body. After becoming a God Lord, one would place even more emphasis on cultivating the soul. A unique demon Tao soul body would undoubtedly be stronger, and a demon Tao soul body could also increase the strength of a demon Tao God Lord. The appearance of this item also caused countless evil Tao God Lords to madly bid on it. The next item to be auctioned is a fragment of a supreme ancestral artifact. The moment the white-robed elder spoke, the auction house fell silent. Chapter 1434. The next item to be auctioned is a fragment of a supreme ancestral artifact. The moment the white-robed elder spoke, the bustling auction house instantly fell silent. It's finally going to appear. The black-cloaked god Lord Heavenly Solitude softly muttered. Just what sort of ancestral artifact fragment is it? The members of the Life's Sacred Land felt their hearts sink. On the other side, the members of the fallen Heaven's Sacred Land couldn't help but stand up and look at the auction stage. They had received news that an ancestral artifact fragment was going to appear in the Divine Kingdom auction house, but no one knew what sort of ancestral artifact fragment it was. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on the auction stage in the center. The rank 9 ancient god beauty next to the white-robed elder took out a golden jade box. At this moment, even her hands were trembling. The moment the jade box was opened, a dark red flame immediately swallowed and spat out. The temperature in the auction house soared. A few rank 8 ancient gods felt like their divine bodies were on the verge of melting from the heat. At the same time, the time-type ancestral artifact fragment in Zhao Feng's interspatial dimension began to tremble. This is. Zhao Feng's eyes pierced through the layers of fire energy to clearly see the item sealed within the jade box. This was a red gold feather covered in dense red flame inscriptions. A dark red flame slowly burned on its tail, exuding a dreadful fire law. At this moment, even Zhao Feng was extremely tempted to obtain this feather. After all, he was also a cultivator of fire intent. Although he already had an ancestral artifact fragment, no one would ever complain about having too many of these things. A fragment of the ancestral artifact blazing hell. God Lord Heavenly Solitude was startled, his pitch-black eyes flashing. This feather, could it be from blazing hell? The supreme ancestral artifact of the Golden Crow race during the ancient era? It's actually a fragment of such a powerful ancestral artifact. The people in the auction house were all old monsters who had lived for millions of years, even hundreds of millions of years. They were extremely knowledgeable and instantly recognized the origins of this feather. This ancestral artifact fragment originates from the supreme ancestral artifact of the Golden Crow race, blazing hell. It contains the purest fire law, and the fire energy within it is no ordinary flame, but Golden Crow flame. The white-robed elder took in a deep breath and slowly said, "Hurry and begin." Many people in the auction house couldn't wait any longer. First of all, this ancestral artifact fragment from blazing hell was of extraordinary quality. Moreover, the law of fire was an extremely common law, so the majority of the god lords present could use this ancestral artifact fragment as they pleased. Even if they cultivated an ancestral artifact fragment's energy did not match, no one could resist its temptation. The ancestral artifact fragment has a starting price of 20 million. Each increment must be no less than 100,000. The white-robed old man announced loudly. The starting price of the ancestral artifact fragment was 20 million. God lords who were not wealthy did not even have the ability to make a bid. Although the price was shocking, someone in the auction house made a bid as soon as the white-clothed old man finished speaking. 21 million, 23 million. 24, 5 million. The sound of bidding rose and fell. Ancestral artifact fragments were priceless. God lords were even willing to sell everything they had. In the auction house, the previously silent VIP stands were now filled with the sounds of bids. At this moment, Zhao Feng sensed the auras of nearly 10 powerful god lords, most of them on par with God Lord Verdant Origin. There were even one or two that were several times stronger than God Lord Verdant Origin. The god lords of the 5 sacred lands were all participating. A few moments later, the price of the ancestral artifact fragment had broken past 40 million. Even at this price, the bidding in the auction house did not slow down much. An ancestral artifact fragment was far too precious. Any god lord that obtained it would be able to dominate those of the same level, and they might even be able to challenge those of a higher level. It seems like even more people have come for this ancestral artifact fragment. Zhao Feng couldn't help but be alarmed. 50 million. A god lord excitedly called out. But this price was instantly swallowed up by the bids of the other god lords. Even more people in the auction house were quietly watching this competition, but they still felt their blood boil in excitement. 60 million. 63 million. When the ancestral artifact fragment reached this price, the number of people bidding suddenly dropped. Damn! I spent quite a bit of wealth on the divine kingdom. The white-skinned, black-tattooed man from the fallen heaven's sacred land was somewhat unwilling. When the price of the ancestral artifact fragment reached 80 million, only a few powerful factions were still bidding. However, they were all very cautious in bidding against each other. After all, 80 million high-quality god crystals was no small sum. Just when the second heaven god lords of the sacred lands were cautiously bidding, 100 million. A sinister and hoarse voice suddenly rang out from below. The auction house instantly fell deathly silent. Everyone stared at the mysterious person who was wearing a black cloak and whose face could not be seen. A moment ago, the price had only been raised to 83 million high-quality god crystals, but now, someone had raised the price to 100 million. At this moment, even the 5 sacred lands hesitated. 110,000. The spacetime sacred land god lords raised the price. 110 million. The mysterious person raised the price once more. The spacetime sacred land raised the price by 100,000, but the mysterious person raised the price by 10 million. This scene instantly caused the unwilling sacred lands to give up on this idea. Although they had given up on bidding, everyone wanted to see just who this mysterious person in the black cloak was. Just who is it? Not even a sacred land can win. Many people in the auction house turned to look at the mysterious person in the black cloak. But even the divine senses of second heaven god lords were blocked off from seeing this person. This voice is rather familiar. Zhao Feng activated his left eye and focused. Gradually, Zhao Feng's gaze pierced through the black cloak. Suddenly, the person in the black cloak turned to Zhao Feng and coldly snorted. In a flash, Zhao Feng's soul trembled. God Lord Heavenly Solitude. Zhao Feng's heart thumped, and he immediately looked away. He hadn't expected that the one to obtain the ancestral artifact fragment would be God Lord Heavenly Solitude. It seemed like this person's faction was not simple. As the auction for the ancestral artifact fragment came to an end, the auction gradually approached its conclusion. Although the treasures that followed could not compare to the ancestral artifact fragment, they were still of considerable value. The Heaven Void God Origin Ginseng can help one become a God Lord. Half-step God Lords can increase their chances by around 20%. If an ancient god uses it, it can also greatly increase their cultivation. The moment the white-robed elder announced this resource, the half-step God Lords in the auction house were all stunned. Although it was only around 20%, even an increase of 10% was enough for half-step God Lords to fight over it. Moreover, there were 3 Heaven Void God Origin Ginseng up for auction. As expected, Zhao Feng rejoiced. The starting price of the Heaven Void God Origin Ginseng was 1.5 million, and it only took a few moments for the price to rise to 3 million. 2 million. Zhao Feng immediately made his move. 52 million. 65 million. Zhao Feng was determined to obtain this resource. He had already earned a great deal of god crystals, so he was brimming with confidence. In the end, the first Heaven Void God Origin Ginseng was won by Zhao Feng for 4.3 million. This was much smoother than Zhao Feng had imagined. After all, the Heaven Void God Origin Ginseng could only increase one's chances of breaking through to the God Lord level by 20%. Anything over 3 million was basically worthless. And now, in the final stages of the auction, the major factions had expended a great deal of money in the previous auctions, and some of them had even run out of money. One could say that Zhao Feng had found a small loophole. Damn! I have to get the second one. Although the first one had been won by Zhao Feng, there were still 2 left, and many experts were preparing for a second round of bidding. The starting price of the second Heaven Void God Origin Ginseng is 1.5 million, and each bid must be no less than 10,000. The white-robed elder had just finished speaking before anyone else could slowly raise the price, 3 million. Zhao Feng said. He was doing this to save time. Damn, it's that person again. He already got one, but he won't even let go of the second one. Quite a few people in the auction house were furious. 35 million. Someone couldn't swallow this and directly called out a price. Brother Feng, you already got a Heaven Void God Origin Ginseng. Why are you still bidding? Zhao Yufei was rather confused. For you to use. Zhao Feng faintly smiled. The Heaven Void God Origin Ginseng was a treasure that could increase one's chances of breaking through to the God Lord level. Its quality far surpassed that of the Moonlight Sky Bamboo, so Zhao Feng could not duplicate it. Moreover, he had earned quite a bit, so he might as well continue bidding. In the end, the second Heaven Void God Origin Ginseng was obtained by Zhao Feng for 4.9 million. Just when the experts in the auction house thought that Zhao Feng would stop, Zhao Feng suddenly stopped. For the third Heaven Void God Origin Ginseng, Zhao Feng once more called out a price, ultimately obtaining it at the high price of 6 million. Once the auction was over, Zhao Feng and Zhao Yufei emerged, attracting the attention of many people. But only a few people knew that Zhao Feng was the person who had won 3 Heaven Void God Origin Ginseng in a row. Xian Wuhan. After traveling some distance, Zhao Feng and Zhao Yufei finally found Xian Wuhan. Zhao Feng. Zhao Yufei. Xian Wuhan was rather surprised. The three of them went to a high-end tea parlor within the Divine Kingdom trading ring. How is it? How's the giant god race doing? Zhao Feng asked. Although Xian Wuhan had obtained many precious resources from the ancestral legacy treasury, the majority of them were time-intent. Moreover, the giant god race would not be able to contend against ancient Soul Hall in a short period of time. Fortunately, the giant god race is much stronger than before, and it's currently recruiting soldiers. Xian Wuhan said after a few moments of thought. In the past, the giant god race controlled ancient Soul Hall, and the giant god race had quite a few factions loyal to it. However, the giant god race had not displayed the strength to contend against ancient Soul Hall, so they did not dare to rashly lend a hand. But now, Xian Wuhan had become a god lord, and the giant god race was rapidly getting stronger and stronger. A while ago, during the war between the spiritual race and the blazing gold race, I obtained quite a few spoils of war from the battlefield. I originally wanted to auction them off, but the Divine Kingdom auction was too high-class and didn't care for them. If you can use them, you can take them all. Zhao Feng took out an interspatial dimension and placed it on the stone table. It contained a large number of mid-grade and high-grade divine artifacts, as well as many low-grade precious materials. To Zhao Feng, these were useless, and the Divine Kingdom auction house did not accept commissions. But to Xian Wuhan's giant god race, it was very useful. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Xian Wuhan didn't refuse and accepted it directly. The three of them chatted for a long time before they parted ways. On the third day, Zhao Feng, Zhao Yufei, and the second elder of the spirit race left the Divine Kingdom Trading Center. Everyone who had entered the Divine Kingdom's trading center had gained quite a bit. After returning to the spirit race, most of them went into seclusion. Within the space-time robe, let's try breaking through to level 9 space intent again. Zhao Feng's eyes dimmed. Only at level 9 could one be considered a half-step god lord. Chapter 1435. Within the space-time robe, several high-level space intent resources floated in front of Zhao Feng. The essence of their energy was slowly being absorbed by Zhao Feng. Bzzzzz. His body was surrounded by an extremely obvious space energy, making Zhao Feng seem both real and illusory, his body distorted and blurry. Level 9 intent was the peak of intent. If one wanted to comprehend a profound meaning to the peak, it usually required a long period of accumulation. But Zhao Feng had countless resources and a supreme quality spacetime divine artifact like the spacetime robe. Moreover, he also had some talent in space. It wasn't impossible for him to succeed in the short term. Nearby, the Black Destruction Dragon opened its eyes. Space intent is approaching level 9. The Black Destruction Dragon sensed the powerful spatial ripples exuded by Zhao Feng and was stunned. After the war between the two races, it had broken into peak rank 9. The Black Destruction Dragon originally believed that it could catch up to Zhao Feng. This was because the symbol of a half-step God Lord was level 9 intent, which was largely related to comprehension ability and talent. And its primary cultivation of fire intent was simpler than space intent, so the Black Destruction Dragon believed that its fire intent would reach level 9 first. But now, it seemed that this was not necessarily the case. Buzz. Bzzz. The space within the spacetime robe was twisted and chaotic. If one had a low cultivation and was not skilled in space intent, they would never be able to survive in this dimension. This situation persisted for a year, and it only got worse and worse. One day, the twisting of the space within the spacetime robe suddenly stopped. Did I succeed? The Black Destruction Dragon opened its eyes and held its breath. Suddenly, a profound and unfathomable space intent began to spread out from Zhao Feng's body. The twisted space was instantly smoothed out. At the same time, the Black Destruction Dragon sensed that this dimension had become even more stable and vast. Level 9 space, half-step God Lord. Zhao Feng suddenly opened his eyes, and his body appeared in the air above. With his time intent at level 9, he could now use almost all of the spacetime robe's power. Master, congratulations on becoming a half-step God Lord. The Black Destruction Dragon immediately offered its congratulations. After successfully becoming a half-step God Lord, Zhao Feng returned to his seclusion area and seated himself cross-legged. His profound had just broken through, so he needed some time to familiarize himself with it. His other profound also had room for improvement. In addition, the fact that his space intent had reached the 9th level meant that Zhao Feng could cultivate the 5th level of the Chaos Heaven Void Origin technique. Once he succeeded in cultivating it, his strength would increase by leaps and bounds. Within the spacetime robe, 3 years passed in a flash. During this time, Zhao Feng had comprehended his power Upanishads and also improved his other power Upanishads. In addition, he had already begun cultivating the 5th level of the Chaos Heaven Void Origin technique, and his Chaos Divine Power had advanced another level. While cultivating, Zhao Feng was also cultivating the 5th level's powerful battle skill, Chaos Heaven Black Hole. This battle skill was an upgraded version of the Chaotic Heaven Void Ring. Its defensive and devouring abilities were strengthened to the limit, and it also had a powerful offensive ability. Although the Chaos Heaven Black Hole was a combat skill at the 5th level of the Chaos Heaven Void Origin technique, the difficulty of this combat skill was extremely high. It could only be executed at the peak of the 5th level. At present, Zhao Feng was only at the beginner level, and he would need some time to fully master it. Time flew by. Zhao Feng had been in seclusion in the spacetime robe for 8 years now. One day, Zhao Feng sensed a powerful ripple in his interspatial dimension and ended his seclusion. What's wrong? Zhao Feng took out the ancestral artifact fragment. That powerful ripple just now had come from the ancestral artifact fragment. Lord Twilight Valley asked me to tell you that Xian Wuheng is requesting reinforcements. An elderly voice came from the ancestral artifact fragment. The giant god race possessed the ancient god seal and could communicate with Twilight Valley in the light race's divine kingdom, and Twilight Valley had a way to communicate with the ancestral artifact fragment. What? The giant god race is in danger? Zhao Feng was taken aback. Back at the divine kingdom trading ring, when he asked about Xian Wuheng's situation, Xian Wuheng had said that he was fine. But now that Xian Wuheng had sent him a request for reinforcements, one could see that the giant god race truly was in a bad situation. This made sense. Even if Xian Wuheng had obtained a massive amount of resources from the light race's divine kingdom, the giant god race couldn't have grown to the level where it could contend against ancient Soul Hall in just a few short decades. In addition, Xian Wuheng was hoping to use his relationship with Zhao Feng and Zhao Yufei to get the spiritual race to send reinforcements. But the spiritual race was too far from the Chixing zone, and the two races did not have much contact. The spiritual race had just experienced a major battle and suffered grievous losses, so it needed time to recover. Any sensible race would not help an unfamiliar faction at a time like this. But Zhao Feng still had to try. After leaving the spacetime robe, Zhao Feng went to find the second elder and explained the situation. Zhao Feng, the patriarch is currently traveling, the grand elder is in seclusion, and the cursed words of death in my body have not been completely undone. Moreover, this is a battle between 5 stars of another zone. The spiritual race cannot interfere. As expected, the spiritual race could not lend a helping hand, and the second elder tactfully refused. The spiritual race was a faction of the Xiling zone. If it interfered in a war of another zone, it truly would not be good. In addition, the giant god race's chances of defeating ancient Soul Hall were minuscule. If the spiritual race rashly sent reinforcements, they would probably not be able to return. Since that's the case, I'll go alone and take a look. Zhao Feng had an indifferent expression. He had his current accomplishments and the possession of a heaven-defying treasure like the ancestral artifact fragment because Xian Wuheng had ignored the objections of his race and insisted that Zhao Feng enter the ancestral legacy treasury. Moreover, Nan Gongsheng and Kuan Yun were also in the giant god race. In addition, Zhao Feng had just become a half-step god lord, and his strength had taken a significant leap. At this time, he would even have the confidence to face a god lord. And war was not necessarily a bad thing. In the war between the two races, he had obtained nearly 20 million high-quality god crystals as spoils of war from the blazing gold race. But this sort of wealth was still nothing in the Divine Kingdom auction house. On this trip to the giant god race to resist ancient Soul Hall, he might be able to obtain even more wealth. Zhao Feng, you can't be impulsive. The second elder grimaced. Zhao Feng had an extremely high chance of becoming a god lord in the future, perhaps even breaking into the second heaven or third heaven. With such potential, the spiritual race had already begun to treat him as a member of their race. Elder, be at ease. Even God Lord Fire Cloud couldn't do anything to me back then. Zhao Feng confidently said. Ancient Soul Hall can't compare to the blazing gold race. That faction was able to overthrow the giant god race shows just how extraordinary it is. The second elder immediately tried to persuade him. But suddenly, Zhao Feng's body began to exude a powerful space energy that sealed off the surrounding space. Even the second elder felt a certain spatial suppression. You've become a half-step god lord. The second elder's face was filled with astonishment. At this time, Zhao Feng was already a half-step god lord, and his cultivation was primarily in space intent. Ordinary god lords were unable to do anything to Zhao Feng before, and now, they were even less capable of dealing with him. Even if Zhao Feng was no match for him, with his level 9 space intent and time law, he could easily escape. In the end, the second elder agreed to allow Zhao Feng to reinforce the blazing gold race. Elder, I'll leave Yufei to you. Before leaving, Zhao Feng was somewhat worried about Zhao Yufei. Zhao Yufei had enormous room for improvement. As long as she was given enough time, she could rapidly mature. Zhao Yufei was currently in seclusion, and Zhao Feng had not informed her. In a clash between 5-star factions, Zhao Yufei's cultivation was not very useful. It was not safe for her to go to the giant god race, and the spiritual race would not allow Zhao Yufei to go. In order to avoid trouble, Zhao Feng decided to go alone. Zhao Feng, the spiritual race cannot send too many experts, but it is possible to have a few rank 8 and rank 9 ancient gods accompany you. The second elder was still somewhat worried. There's no need. Zhao Feng refused the second elder's good intentions. If a god lord led the group, the spiritual race could get to the Chixing zone a little faster, but a few rank 8 and rank 9 ancient gods would be a little slower. And Zhao Feng was not going alone. He had many powerful helpers. In addition, if Zhao Feng went alone, he could use the light race Divine Kingdom to quickly reach the Chixing zone. Outsiders naturally could not know of this, so Zhao Feng refused the second elder's good intentions. After leaving the spiritual race, Zhao Feng went to a secluded place. 1 month later, boom. Bzzz. Bzzz. The ancestral artifact fragment floated in the air, unleashing a powerful time energy that connected to another vast energy. A few moments later, a passage was formed. The light race divine kingdom was of an extremely high level and contained enormous amounts of energy. At this moment, Twilight Valley was controlling the divine kingdom, moving it near the Xiling zone and establishing a passage. With this, Zhao Feng could directly enter the light race divine kingdom. Once inside the divine kingdom, Zhao Feng would be able to reach the Qixing zone even faster. Whoosh! Zhao Feng jumped in. After a moment of spatial distortion, he appeared in the forbidden ground of the light race divine kingdom, next to the tree of time. An elder floated in front of him, his body formed from flowing white light. Senior Twilight Valley, many thanks. Zhao Feng carefully examined Twilight Valley. If his guess was correct, Twilight Valley was currently a first heaven god lord, but he exuded an unfathomable aura. How long has it been since we last met? You've already become a half-step god lord. Twilight Valley was rather surprised. When he left this place, Zhao Feng had only been a rank 9 ancient god. This is all thanks to my gains in the light race divine kingdom. Zhao Feng said with a smile. In the following days, Zhao Feng remained in the light race divine kingdom, cultivating or tempering himself in some dangerous forbidden grounds. 3 months later, Twilight Valley once more established a path and sent Zhao Feng to the Qixing zone, near where the giant god race resided. The Qixing zone was one of the most dangerous forbidden grounds, the scorching underworld. The world was suffused with a scorching red mist. Even a rank 6 ancient god would be corroded by the fire poison if they approached. The fire poison here was extremely unique. Not only could it corrode the body, but it could also affect one's soul. Moreover, the closer one got to the center, the stronger the fire poison. It was even somewhat effective against ancient gods. Occasionally, one could see pitch-black figures in the scorching lava, exuding scorching and dangerous energy. Whoosh! 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 Several figures slowly advanced through the scorching underworld. The leader was a slender man with a cold and harsh expression. His body was shrouded in a gloomy and ghostly mist, unaffected by the poisonous heat. Ah! A scream came from the back of the group. Immediately, several powerhouses and medical personnel rushed over. They really can hide. I didn't think that they would be hiding here. A rank 9 ancient god cursed. In order to find the whereabouts of the giant god race, Ancient Soul Hall had mobilized almost all its factions to comb through the Qixing zone. Their struggle is about to come to an end. The leader, God Lord Evil Spirit, wickedly smiled. Chapter 1436. In the center of the scorching underworld, the thick poisonous fog flooded the world like an ocean. Somewhere in the center of this dangerous forbidden area, there was a hidden divine kingdom. The interior of the divine kingdom was completely different from the outside world. The scenery within was picturesque and exuberant. Many simple and crude palaces dotted the vast land. The upper echelon members of Giant God Hall were gathered in a secret hall isolated by arrays. The people of Ancient Soul Hall have already discovered our hiding place. They'll probably be here soon. A rank 9 ancient god elder sighed. Even if we hide here, they'll still discover us. A bull-headed middle-aged man with a man's body snorted. These words confused many of the upper echelon members present. Ancient Soul Hall has the support of a mysterious faction. Xin Wuheng's expression was calm, his eyes dark and gloomy. Up until now, he had only told the Grand Elder about the Heaven's Legacy race. If the other members of the Giant God race knew that Ancient Soul Hall was colluding with the third-ranked Heaven's Legacy race, they wouldn't even have the courage to resist. For example, the bull-headed middle-aged man was a half-step god lord, the sect master of a peak 4-star sect that had been roped in by the giant god race. If they had known about this beforehand, they probably wouldn't have helped the giant god race. That's right. This faction is probably not simple. Many of the members present agreed. The faction behind Ancient Soul Hall was definitely not simple. Based on their intelligence reports, Ancient Soul Hall had recently been constantly producing high-rank ancient gods and half-stepped godlords. This was definitely related to the faction behind them. But that mysterious faction did not seem to dare to be too brazen, only providing Ancient Soul Hall with resources. Of course, this was only what the giant god race knew. Lord Wuheng, what should we do now? The middle-aged man asked. The others also turned to Xian Wuheng. After all, he was the hall master of Giant God Hall and also had a god lord cultivation. At present, they only had two paths before them. One was to defend, and the other was to retreat. The environment of the scorching underworld is harsh. Defending this place will give us a greater advantage. Xian Wuheng calmly said. They had already been discovered by Ancient Soul Hall, so even if they retreated, they wouldn't be able to escape. If they guarded this place and made sufficient preparations, coupled with the advantage of the environment, they might be able to put up a fight against Ancient Soul Hall. Moreover, I've already asked for reinforcements from a friend. If he can bring a faction with him, we can work together and catch Ancient Soul Hall off guard. Xian Wuheng added. In fact, he had no confidence in himself. Logically speaking, the Astrals should not have come all the way to help Giant God Hall. But his words gave the members of Giant God Hall a little more hope. Okay. We'll send out an ancient god team to lie in ambush near the scorching underworld. We'll do our best to obstruct and disturb the Ancient Soul Hall members. The Great Elder immediately gave the order. Scorching hell. Scatter. Search the specific location of Ancient Soul Hall and seal off this place. God Lord Evil Spirit whispered. The scorching hell covered a vast area. Coupled with the influence of the scorching poisonous fog, his divine sense was hindered and he couldn't fly at full speed. Whoosh! The Ancient Soul Hall teams were split into groups of 3 or 4 and headed to various locations in the scorching underworld. This giant god race is really too much. There was no hope in the first place, but they just had to fight against Ancient Soul Hall and hide in such a dangerous forbidden ground. How troublesome. A beautiful woman with a slender figure had a resentful expression on her face. Search carefully. If we find where the giant god race is hiding, Ancient Soul Hall will reward us handsomely. The azure-robed rank 9 ancient god leading the team called out. But at this moment, a heavy energy suddenly pressed down. Boom! 3 figures charged out of the ground in the distance. The leader was Ancient God Resplendence. She was at the very front, unleashing one palm of wind after another. The other 2 were Fire Dao cultivators, so they were even stronger in this place. Hurry and defend. The azure-robed ancient god immediately called out. With a wave of his hand, he condensed a ball of black divine power into a black shield. The other 2 grimaced and immediately took out their divine artifacts to defend themselves. Boom! Bang! Crash! The 3 of them worked together to barely block the first round of attacks from Giant God Hall. Kill! Ancient God Resplendence roared as she activated the power of the Giant God race bloodline. The power of her attacks instantly multiplied, allowing her to shatter the defenses of the Ancient Soul Hall trio. Retreat! The azure-robed ancient god immediately ordered. In this environment, the Giant God race clearly had the advantage. Their goal this time was to find where Giant God Hall was hiding, so they had no need to fight to the death with Giant God Hall. Where do you think you're going? Ancient God Resplendence flipped her hand, and an ancient metal array disc appeared. She activated the array disc and tossed it out. Buzz! Bzzz! Countless Heaven's Legacy race characters appeared on the array disk, and its center exploded with powerful divine power. 16 condensed white rays of light shot out, instantly forming a special sealed dimension that trapped the ancient Soul Hall trio within. Not good. This is the Heaven's Legacy race's array disk. The azure-robed ancient god's expression darkened. Once the Heaven's Legacy race's array disk was activated, it could instantly unleash a simple Heaven's Legacy array. Anyone with a basic understanding of Heaven's Legacy arrays could use this kind of tool. Excellent items. The Heaven's Legacy race tools that Lord Wuheng obtained from the Ancestral Legacy Treasury are truly too formidable. The eyes of the two ancient gods following ancient god resplendence gleamed. Xin Wuheng had taken many items left behind by the Heaven's Legacy race from the Light race's divine kingdom and distributed them to the giant god hall members to strengthen them. Kill. Ancient god resplendence led the other two ancient god hall members into the sealing array. Almost all the members of ancient Soul Hall were experts of the Soul Dao, so they were greatly suppressed in this place. The majority of giant god hall's disciples were body-refining experts, so they had a stronger resistance to the scorching poison mist. Moreover, giant god hall had been hiding here for a long time and would occasionally cultivate in the poison mist, so their resistance to the poison was greater. Both sides had 3 people in the sealing array, and the difference in their cultivations wasn't very large, but the battle was completely one-sided. Even so, it would still be rather difficult for the giant god hall trio to completely kill the enemy. Kill one first. Ancient god resplendence ordered the 3 ancient god hall members to focus on the woman. But at this moment, laughter could be heard. It's a survivor of giant god hall. Not good. Retreat. Ancient god resplendence immediately put away the Heaven's Legacy array disk and planned to retreat while also sending out a distress signal. But a powerful and oppressive energy suddenly pressed in. An ugly and emaciated elder slowly emerged from the dark red mist. How terrifying. Ancient god resplendence, 2 teammates trembled in fear, unable to move even half a step. Half-step god lord. Ancient god resplendence grimaced in panic. Elder, if we capture them, we can interrogate them and find out where giant god hall is hiding. The azure-robed ancient god faintly smiled. Naturally. The ugly elder savagely smiled. Suddenly, a relaxed and carefree voice spoke, I've finally found them. Whoosh! A silver-haired man flew through the poisonous mist and appeared in front of the group. This person was naturally Zhao Feng. He had been teleported into the scorching underworld by Twilight Valley, but he had been unable to find the location of the giant god race. Only now did he see ancient god resplendence. Who is it? The ugly elder's body trembled as he turned to Zhao Feng. As a half-step god lord of ancient Soul Hall, he was skilled in the Soul Dao and possessed extremely outstanding senses. But he had not sensed anyone else nearby just now. Half-step god lord. The ugly elder's eyes narrowed. His opponent was a half-step god lord, and with the obstruction of the poisonous mist, it was understandable that he had not sensed them beforehand. Zhao Feng. Ancient god resplendence called out in pleasant surprise. The other 2 ancient Soul Hall members had clearly joined later and did not recognize Zhao Feng, so they appeared confused. But the azure-robed ancient god's pupils constricted and his body trembled. How could this be? This person appeared here. The azure-robed ancient god had a look of fear on his face. Back when he accompanied God Lord Evil Spirit in pursuing the giant god race, he had personally seen Zhao Feng and Xin Wuheng work together to push back God Lord Evil Spirit. The strength Zhao Feng displayed at the time far surpassed that of an ordinary half-step god lord. If he remembered correctly, Zhao Feng was only rank 9 back then, but now, he was a half-step god lord. What are you afraid of? Even if he's a half-step god lord, we have 6 people on our side. The beautiful woman disdainfully said. The ugly elder was also rather confused. He's Zhao Feng, the person who worked together with Xian Wuheng to push back God Lord Evil Spirit. The azure-robed ancient god explained what he knew. The exquisite woman and the ugly old man's expressions changed slightly when they heard this. Anyone who could exchange blows with a god lord was at least a top-class half-step god lord. Otherwise, even working together with Xian Wuheng would have found it very difficult to push back God Lord Evil Spirit. But this only made the ugly elder a little more wary. If he knew that Zhao Feng was only a rank 9 ancient god back then, he would have already fled. Zhao Feng, let's go so that we don't attract even more ancient Soul Hall members. Ancient God Resplendence shot a pleading glance at Zhao Feng. Their goal had always been to ambush the enemy and heavily injure them. Once the two sides were evenly matched in strength, they would immediately retreat. Okay. When Zhao Feng arrived, he had noticed quite a few ancient Soul Hall members. However, he had stealthily made his way through the scorching underworld without anyone noticing. Want to leave? It's not that easy. The ugly elder coldly snorted. With a wave of his hand, he unleashed a ball of grey ghostly mist, within which was a powerful soul beast. But right at this moment, a strange power suddenly descended from the surroundings. Everything in the world suddenly became extremely slow. Even the soul beast that had charged out was the same. How could this be? The ugly elder's entire body trembled. Only now that Zhao Feng had attacked did he realize just how terrifying Zhao Feng was. But the binding of time intent made it impossible for him to escape. Whoosh! Zhao Feng rapidly approached the ugly elder and thrust out a palm. A powerful ball of chaos origin divine power shot out of his palm and entered the elder's body. A moment later, the elder's body began to twist and shatter as a black hole of turbid silver devoured him. After reaching the 5th level of the Chaos Heaven Void Origin technique, the power of his Chaos Origin divine power had greatly increased, and Zhao Feng's time intent had also advanced, approaching the peak of level 8. An ordinary half-step god lord like the ugly elder was simply incapable of fighting back. Elder. The other members of Ancient Soul Hall watched helplessly as a half-step god lord was killed, their backs drenched in cold sweat and their minds gripped by fear. But their cultivations were far too low, and they found it difficult to advance under the effects of Zhao Feng's time intent. Swoosh! The Chaos Origin divine power in Zhao Feng's hand transformed into a broad Chaos Origin divine sword, and with a single slash, all 5 of them were killed. Let's go. Take me to the giant god race. After doing all this, Zhao Feng called out. Ancient God Resplendent's other 2 teammates were still in a daze. Chapter 1437. After traveling for some time, Zhao Feng followed Ancient God Resplendent's group to the center of the scorching underworld. Not even a rank 8 ancient god would be able to resist the scorching poisonous mist here. Ancient God Resplendent's group had used the Heaven's Legacy Array to protect them, but with Zhao Feng present, there was no need to use the array. Buzz. Bzzz. After communicating with the giant god race divine kingdom, the space in front of them rippled, forming a dark yellow passage. Whoosh! Whoosh! Countless experts flew out from the divine kingdom, including Xian Wuheng and the Grand Elder. There were also a few half-step god lords and peak rank 9s that Zhao Feng had never seen before. It seems like the giant god race has developed quite well. If we wait another 1,000 years, we'll be able to contend against Ancient Soul Hall. Zhao Feng analyzed. But was there really a need for the giant god race to mobilize so many people just for his arrival? Zhao Feng, you've come. Xian Wuheng was the first to step forward. Although Zhao Feng had come alone, he had originally believed that the spiritual race would not send anyone and that Zhao Feng was unlikely to come. Now that Zhao Feng had come to help him, Xian Wuheng was extremely pleased. When he sensed Zhao Feng's cultivation, he was first shocked, then delighted. In his memories, Zhao Feng had always been an existence that could challenge those of higher cultivation levels. Now that Zhao Feng was a half-step god lord, he should have the strength to contend with an ordinary god lord. To the giant god race, a fighting force that could contend with a god lord was extremely important. He's the reinforcements that Lord Wuheng invited? Why is there only one person? But the other upper echelon members did not think much of it. Most of them had entered Giant God Hall later and had little understanding of Zhao Feng, nor did they know that the spiritual race had just experienced a major battle. Moreover, they had been very hopeful about the reinforcements that Xin Wuheng had mentioned. Now, only one person had come. This was undoubtedly a massive blow to them. Lord Wuheng, your reinforcements are only one person. Even if we guard this place, we have no chance of victory. The bull-headed middle-aged man glanced at Zhao Feng, shook his head, and sighed. Ancient God Giant Devil is right. Our chances aren't very high. Some of the people who had joined Giant God Hall later revealed disappointed expressions. This friend of mine is not as simple as he seems. If he is willing to help us, he will be no less useful than a batch of reinforcements. Xin Wuheng stood straight, and his calm expression was filled with confidence. He knew that Zhao Feng still had powerful clones and experts of the Destruction Dragon tribe. Moreover, Zhao Feng's own ability was also extremely outstanding. Oh! A strange light flashed in Ancient God Giant Devil's eyes as he stared at Zhao Feng. After careful observation, he also felt that the person in front of him was not ordinary, but in the end, he was still a person. This was a war between two major forces. Unless it was a top-notch expert, a single person wouldn't have much of an impact on the overall situation. Right now, the giant god race is facing a problem. Why don't we have Lord Wuheng's good friend take action and let us witness Sir's abilities? Another broad-faced old man said immediately, and then revealed a look of anticipation. Zhao Feng, what do you think? Xin Wuheng felt somewhat helpless. Zhao Feng had only just arrived, but the upper echelon members of Giant God Hall were already trying to force him into battle. This truly wasn't very good. But the factions that these upper echelon members belonged to were also taking enormous risks to help the giant god race. At this moment, if everyone believed that this was a hopeless situation, the factions that had joined later would probably compromise and surrender to Ancient Soul Hall. They only cared about themselves and the survival of their factions, so they were targeting Zhao Feng. No problem. It's just a minor matter. Zhao Feng calmly agreed. Ever since the war between the two races, Zhao Feng had always viewed war as an excellent opportunity to plunder resources. Okay. Then we'll be depending on Sir. Ancient God Giant Devil's group couldn't help but smile. In the face of a cruel and bloody war, Zhao Feng actually said that it was just a minor matter. In their view, Zhao Feng was undoubtedly the descendant of a spiritual race elder who had been raised like a prince and was used to being noble. His elders would resolve all problems for him, which was why he could say such big words. A portion of Ancient Soul Hall's members are currently venturing deep into the scorching underworld. Discovering Giant God Hall's hiding place is only a matter of time. What Sir needs to do right now is to command the members of Giant God Hall to ambush and obstruct Ancient Soul Hall in the scorching underworld. Ancient God Giant Devil explained the current situation and Zhao Feng's mission. Zhao Feng nodded. In truth, the moment he arrived, he had used the God's spiritual eye to observe and guess at the Giant God race's current strategy, defend the Divine Kingdom and use the harsh environment to contend against Ancient Soul Hall. By doing this, they could weaken Ancient Soul Hall while also buying time for Giant God Hall. If this continued, Giant God Hall might be able to contend against Ancient Soul Hall in the end. This is a special message token of the Blazing Gold race. Fuse your mind into it, and you will be able to sense the nearby Giant God Hall members holding this token and send them a message. The Grand Elder took out a dark yellow token and then added, if an enemy God Lord expert appears, inform me immediately. Brother Zhao, I'll have to trouble you. With the abilities of your eye bloodline, this shouldn't be too difficult. Xin Wuheng patted Zhao Feng on the shoulder. He understood Zhao Feng's eye bloodline far better than anyone else in Giant God Hall. After accepting this mission, Zhao Feng left the Divine Kingdom. What's so difficult about this? Zhao Feng faintly smiled. Even without using the special message token, he could see everything going on in an extremely large area. All he could see were rank 7 to rank 9 ancient gods, with a few peak rank 9 and 3 half-step god lords. It's just a small skirmish. I'll leave it to you guys. Zhao Feng had no interest in this at all, so he called out Zhao Kong, Zhao Wang, and Zhao Wan. Zhao Kong and Zhao Wan were both close to peak rank 9, and Zhao Wang was still a rank 9 ancient god. For the time being, the three of them were enough. Moreover, Zhao Feng could share his vision with his clones. Through these 3 clones, he could further increase his range of control and command. I'm currently your highest commander. These 3 have the same status as me. Listen to all their orders. Zhao Feng used the special message token to inform all the Giant God Hall members in the scorching underworld of his current situation and his plans. At a certain place, a buxom giant god race woman and 2 other people were concealing their auras and hiding nearby. The 3 of them received the message at the same time. Who is this person? Why have I never seen him before? The leader of the trio revealed a doubtful expression. Zhao Feng. The buxom woman called out. She was none other than ancient god Stillmoon, who had gone with ancient god Sundermount to Black Devil Peak to search for Zhao Feng. Who is Zhao Feng? The captain had joined Giant God Hall later, so he had never heard of this name before. He's a good friend of Lady Wuheng. It seems like Lady Wuheng asked for his help. Ancient god Stillmoon messaged. At this moment, an unfamiliar voice spoke, found them. They're from Giant God Hall. Capture them alive. Move. The Giant God Hall captain immediately called out. Because they had been chatting, they were noticed by the enemy first. Boom. Bang. Crash. The 2 sides swiftly clashed. Alas, the 4 members of Ancient Soul Hall were somewhat unaccustomed to this place, but they were still slightly stronger than the 3 from Giant God Hall. Right at this moment, a faint aura of death rapidly approached. Not good. Is it another member of Ancient Soul Hall? The captain grimaced. No, it's one of the 3 that Zhao Feng mentioned just now. Ancient God Stillmoon rejoiced when she saw the newcomer's face. Bzzzzz. Zhao Wang's eyes surged with sinister death energy, and in the blink of an eye, he unleashed several death spears. Zhao Wang's participation in the battle immediately reversed the situation, his death intent making the enemy tremble in fear. In the end, 2 members of Ancient Soul Hall were killed while the other 2 fled with heavy injuries. Change the ambush point. After giving the order, Zhao Wang led Ancient God Stillman's group away. In the scorching underworld, the members of the 2 factions were constantly clashing. As long as they were close to the Divine Kingdom, they would be under the control of Zhao Feng's God's spiritual eye. If any unfavorable situation appeared, he could have Zhao Kong, Zhao Wan, or Zhao Wang rush over to reinforce them. The 3 of them all had supreme quality divine artifacts. As long as they didn't run into a half-step God Lord, they could reverse the situation and even take the lives of 1 or 2 people. On this day, the Ancient Soul Hall members were greatly hindered in their search, and they suffered grievous losses. I'll leave it to you for now. Zhao Feng gave this mission to his 3 clones. He found a place for himself, entered the space-time robe, and began to cultivate. Swish! A dark gray jade the size of a palm appeared in Zhao Feng's hand. The patterns on its surface were like feathers, rippling with dark ripples. This was none other than the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone he had won in the Divine Kingdom auction house. It could purify the soul, strengthen soul energy, and allow the soul to transform. For rank 8 and rank 9 ancient gods, the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone had the greatest effect on the soul, and it could even directly raise it by an entire level. And for half-step god lords, while it couldn't directly raise their soul intent, it was still extremely beneficial. Zhao Feng's soul intent was already extremely condensed and pure, far surpassing that of an ordinary half-step god lord. By using this divine stone, he was rather confident that his soul intent could break into the god lord level. When the time came, Zhao Feng's soul eye bloodline techniques would be extremely harmful to first heaven god lords. Buzz. Bzzz. With this thought in mind, Zhao Feng began to circulate his soul energy to absorb the essence of the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone. Besides the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone, Zhao Feng had also won 3 Heaven Void God Origin Ginsengs. He kept one for himself, gave the second to Zhao Yufei, and bestowed the third to the Fire-Eye Qilin race patriarch. Long ago, the Fire-Eye Qilin race patriarch had used the rare resources of the Light Race Divine Kingdom to smoothly comprehend level 9 fire intent and become a half-step god lord. This Heaven Void God Origin Ginseng could increase one's chances of becoming a god lord by 20%. As for whether or not the Blood Flame Qilin race patriarch could become a god lord, that would depend on his luck. As he absorbed the energy of the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone and refined his soul intent, Zhao Feng could use his message token or his 3 clones to understand what was going on outside. Although he was no longer in control and the situation was not as good as it was at the start, he still had a major advantage. Every so often, the situation in the scorching underworld would be transmitted to the Divine Kingdom. How could this be? Ancient God Giant Devil was dumbfounded. Even if Zhao Feng really did have some ability, he couldn't have done such an outstanding job. In the last few days, Ancient Soul Hall had suffered severe losses. Even with reinforcements, they were still unable to penetrate deep into the center of the scorching underworld. Chapter 1438. How could this be? Ancient God Giant Devil was flabbergasted. Even if Zhao Feng had some ability, he couldn't have done such an outstanding job. In the last few days, Ancient Soul Hall had suffered grievous losses. Even with reinforcements, they were still unable to penetrate deep into the center of the scorching underworld. On the other hand, the Giant God Hall members fighting outside, stimulated by the danger, tempered by battle, and plentiful harvests, had gotten much stronger. Lord Wuheng's friend truly is extraordinary. Some of the upper echelon members who had been targeting Zhao Feng smiled. After all, Zhao Feng was the Hall Master's friend, and he was also a true expert who had contributed to Giant God Hall. Thanks to Zhao Feng's outstanding leadership, Ancient Soul Hall did not make any progress in the following days, and their numbers continued to drop. The Giant God Hall members were overjoyed, and they used this gap to temper themselves and increase their strength in preparation for the war. Within the space-time robe, Zhao Feng was still using the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone to cultivate. Buzz. Bzzz. The Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone was constantly sending strange soul energy into Zhao Feng's soul. At this moment, the majority of the Heaven Soul Feather Spirit Stone's energy essence had been absorbed by Zhao Feng. His soul was also in the process of being refined. At this moment, Zhao Wan sent him a message. It turned out that after Ancient Soul Hall's repeated defeats, they had changed their strategy and reduced the number of teams in order to increase the number of people in each team. At present, they had discovered around 4 teams, 3 of which were led by half-step god lords. In this situation, Giant God Hall needed to gather equally powerful teams, or else they would be powerless to fight back. The 3 of you, each lead a team. Zhao Feng sent his orders. Within the space-time robe, the cultivating Black Destruction Dragon suddenly opened its eyes. You just broke into peak rank 9. Go out and temper yourself. Zhao Feng's soul voice resounded in the Black Destruction Dragon's mind. Yes, Master. The Black Destruction Dragon's eyes seethed with black flames. To the Destruction Dragon race, killing and destruction were what they loved the most. In the scorching underworld, the members of Giant God Hall had formed 3 squads, each led by one of Zhao Feng's clones. In the previous clashes, we had the upper hand, but if we use this method to fight against Ancient Soul Hall, our chances of victory will be greatly reduced. If they had too many people, it would be very difficult to set up an ambush or launch a sneak attack. Ancient Soul Hall would have the upper hand if they used this method to fight. Captain, do you have any battle strategies? Many members of the team raised their doubts. If there were too many of them, it would be difficult to inflict heavy damage on the enemy. Once he was defeated, it would be difficult for him to escape. In short, in the eyes of the crowd, this was very disadvantageous to them. Don't ask any more questions. Let's begin. Zhao Kong led a group of people and left. After walking for a while, they encountered a team from Ancient Soul Hall. Kill. Zhao Kong directly gave the order. What? Captain, the other side has a half-step godlord, and his overall strength is stronger than ours. A rank 9 ancient god immediately said. Previously, he had thought that Captain Zhao Kong had some brilliant plan. In the end, when he encountered an enemy, he immediately killed them. But now, they had no path of retreat. There were too many of them, and even escaping was inconvenient. Humph, remnants of Giant God Hall, die. A grey-robed elder of Ancient Soul Hall wickedly chuckled as he led his team forward. Let me try you out. Zhao Kong charged at the half-step godlord. Swoosh! A silver-red sword appeared in his hand, and he thrust it out again and again, creating a net of swords. This silver-red sword was one of the spoils of war that Zhao Feng had obtained in the battle with the blazing gold race. It contained space intent and fire intent, so he had left it with Zhao Kong. Humph, paltry tricks. The grey-robed elder waved his palms, unleashing a massive palm of roiling black clouds that collided with the net of swords. Extreme Space Slash. Zhao Kong's eye of spacetime flashed with silver light, rippling with powerful spacetime energy. His eye of spacetime was extraordinary and was close to the quasi-god eye level. It was precisely for this reason that he was the strongest of Zhao Feng's clones. Whoosh! An illusory silver-white blade appeared in front of Zhao Kong's eyes, and then it shot toward the grey-robed elder. What powerful spacetime energy! The grey-robed elder was slightly startled. For someone of Zhao Kong's cultivation to be able to unleash such an attack was truly extraordinary. But the grey-robed elder was still a half-step godlord, far surpassing the rank 9 ancient god Zhao Kong in every aspect. Boom! Powerful divine power erupted from his body, forming a black wall of light in front of him that blocked Zhao Kong's attack. The grey-robed elder then swiftly counterattacked. With the full power of a half-step godlord, Zhao Kong could do nothing but dodge. Captain, the situation isn't good. What do we do? A rank 9 ancient god worriedly asked. Humph, it's them who are in trouble. Zhao Kong coldly laughed. Boom! At this moment, a calamitous energy that could destroy all rushed forward. At this moment, everyone on both sides felt their bloodlines inexplicably tremble in fear. The-ish. In a flash of black light, a black-scaled man appeared in front of them. Just a bunch of rabble. Tremble before the flames of the Destruction Dragon race. The moment the Black Destruction Dragon appeared, it charged at the grey-robed elder. Its reinforcements. The Giant God Hall members breathed a sigh of relief and rejoiced. No, this bloodline energy, could it be the Destruction Dragon race? The grey-robed elder's face was filled with fear. The Destruction Dragon race was a mythical race that ranked in the top 10 of the 10,000 ancient races. Spacetime Shackle. Zhao Kong seemed to be prepared, and his eyes began to exude powerful spacetime energy. In a flash, powerful spacetime energy formed a barrier around the grey-robed elder, trapping him within. Inside, the gray-robed elder was also suppressed by space-time energy. "Break for me!" The gray-robed elder exploded with all his divine power, causing the surrounding space-time energy to fall into disarray and on the verge of shattering. But at this moment, the Black Destruction Dragon descended. Destruction Dragon Blast. The Black Destruction Dragon's arm transformed into a black dragon of destruction that shot forward. Boom! Bang! The gray-robed elder was sent flying by the Black Destruction Dragon's attack, and he vomited blood as his body plummeted to the ground. Thud-ish. Thud-ish. Zhao Kong and the Black Destruction Dragon immediately pursued. The two of them took out supreme-quality divine artifacts and left the gray-robed elder powerless to fight back. A few moments later, he was killed. After all, the gray-robed elder was an extremely ordinary half-step godlord, while the Black Destruction Dragon possessed the mythical bloodline of the ninth ancient race and possessed formidable offensive abilities that allowed it to challenge those of higher cultivation levels. Coupled with Zhao Kong's assistance, the gray-robed elder's death was not unjustified. With the death of a half-step godlord, the remaining members of Ancient Soul Hall were powerless to fight back. In the end, more than half of the giant God Hall team was killed, and a few scattered in all directions. In the scorching underworld, Ancient Soul Hall's temporary base, damn, how could it be like this? God Lord Evil Spirit's face was savage and seething with rage. Ancient Soul Hall and Giant God Hall had both suffered defeats in their clashes so far. Moreover, the other side had not even sent out a half-step God Lord. This made God Lord Evil Spirit feel utterly humiliated. The ancient god experts of Ancient Soul Hall were all trembling in fear. In the previous clashes, it was mainly the three God Eye descendants who performed extremely brilliantly, frequently defeating the teams of our faction. But now, an expert of the Destruction Dragon race has suddenly appeared. A half-step godlord reported the most recent intelligence report. Based on the previous clashes, these three God Eye descendants and the Destruction Dragon race expert had only recently appeared. Destruction Dragon race. When this race was mentioned, everyone present couldn't help but tremble. In addition, all four of them have supreme-quality divine artifacts. Another person added. What? God Lord Evil Spirit was taken aback. The sudden appearance of three God Eye descendants and a Destruction Dragon race expert had left God Lord Evil Spirit puzzled, and he even suspected that some powerful faction was secretly helping Ancient Soul Hall. Now that he knew that all four of them had supreme-quality divine artifacts, he was even more certain of his conjecture. Even so, could the faction behind Giant God Hall be stronger than the faction behind them? I have to personally investigate the background of these people. God Lord Evil Spirit said to himself. The reason he had not attacked before was because he was the only God Lord present. If he recklessly attacked, he would be surrounded by the God Lords of Giant God Hall, and that would be disastrous. But now, he decided to take action and personally investigate. If he could run into those three God Eye descendants or the Destruction Dragon race, it would be for the best. Killing them would not only yield precious information, but also supreme-quality divine artifacts. Within the space-time robe, crack. The Heaven Soul Feather Spirit stone in front of Zhao Feng suddenly shattered into a pile of dust. His soul consciousness was still in an illusory state. Gradually, Zhao Feng's soul consciousness swelled, leaving his body and the space-time robe dimension to fuse with the vast world outside. Swish! The world trembled, occasionally crackling with thunder. At this moment, Zhao Feng's soul intent surpassed all else and seemed to become the representative of the world. Broom! The scorching poisonous mist of the world began to stir, causing the danger level of the scorching underworld to rise. The people roaming the scorching underworld immediately stopped and put all their strength into resisting the corrosion of the poisonous mist. Kaboom! A will that could shake the heavenly void suddenly broke through the barrier, exuding an immortal and inextinguishable energy that could suppress all things. At this moment, the countless living beings in a radius of more than 100,000 li felt like their souls had been struck by lightning, their bodies prostrating and trembling before this vast will. Within Giant God Hall's divine kingdom a God Lord will. Xin Wuheng immediately opened his eyes. Whoosh! Whoosh! Several powerful ancient gods and half-stepped god lords flew out from the surrounding palaces, solemn expressions on their faces. Could ancient Soul Hall have given birth to a god lord? The Grand Elder said with a grave expression. For this god lord will to be born in the outside world meant that ancient Soul Hall had definitely given birth to a god lord expert. The others thought the same. This was undoubtedly a massive blow to the giant god race. Giant God Hall already had far fewer god lords than ancient Soul Hall. If ancient Soul Hall gained another god lord, not necessarily. Xin Wuheng softly muttered, a silver-haired figure appearing in his mind. At this moment, this god lord will that had suddenly appeared slowly receded. Chapter 1439. Within the scorching underworld. God Lord Evil Spirit was preparing to sneak in and investigate the situation with the three God-Eye descendants and the Destruction Dragon race. A God Lord will. Suddenly, God Lord Evil Spirit raised his head in surprise. The God Lord will in the distance was extremely clear. Could Giant God Hall have produced a God Lord? God Lord Evil Spirit was stunned. If this really was the case, Giant God Hall should have hidden this God Lord as a trump card that could be taken out in the final battle to catch the enemy off guard. They shouldn't have revealed it so openly. Who is it? Suddenly, God Lord Evil Spirit sensed something and turned behind him. God Lord Evil Spirit, you're truly bold to dare enter alone. A translucent black figure slowly emerged from the void. God Lord Gloomhaven. God Lord Evil Spirit rejoiced. God Lord Gloomhaven was in charge of almost all the affairs of ancient Soul Hall, and God Lord Gloomhaven was far stronger than he was. You also sense that God Lord will that was suddenly born just now. God Lord Evil Spirit called out. Let's go and take a look. We can also get a feel for Giant God Hall. God Lord Gloomhaven's eyes dimmed. He had only just arrived, but he already knew the basic situation. And now, a new God Lord will had suddenly appeared in Giant God Hall. If he could gather some intelligence first, it would be easier to deal with them later. Thus, he decided to sneak in with God Lord Evil Spirit and get a feel of the situation. Even if Giant God Hall sensed them and immediately retreated, there was nothing they could do. Within the space-time robe, now that his soul intent had reached the God Lord level, Zhao Feng quickly withdrew this energy and used this newly born will to stabilize his cultivation. With his soul intent at this level, his ability to use various kinds of energy had also far surpassed his previous level. Several days later, Zhao Feng exited his seclusion. At this time, he had completely consolidated his cultivation at the half-step God Lord level, and his overall strength had taken another step forward. At the same time, Zhao Feng sensed that his God spiritual eye was somewhat different now that his soul intent had broken through. Swish! After leaving the space-time robe dimension, he used his God spiritual eye to observe the situation in the scorching underworld. Zhao Feng was surprised. As soon as he activated his left eye, he found that the eye bloodline power of the God spiritual eye had increased dramatically. It was obvious that the birth of the God Lord intent had given it a boost. The increase even caused his left eye to feel a slight swelling pain. He could vaguely feel that the origin energy in his left eye had reached a critical point that it had never reached before. Ancient Soul Hall God Lord. Zhao Feng focused his gaze on the two blurry figures at the edge of his vision. At this time, the team led by Zhao Wan was not far away. Zhao Feng immediately ordered Zhao Wan to retreat. Even if Zhao Wan possessed extraordinary strength and a supreme quality divine artifact, he wouldn't even last a second against two ancient Soul Hall God Lords. Whoosh! An ancient yellow token appeared in Zhao Feng's hand and transmitted a message through it. On the other side, God Lord Evil Spirit and God Lord Gloomhaven concealed their auras as they slowly advanced through the scorching underworld. Something's not right. God Lord Gloomhaven's expression darkened. They hadn't discovered any ambushes or traces of enemies on their way here. God Lord Evil Spirit nodded. Every God Lord was extremely experienced. There truly was something wrong with the current situation. But this was a battlefield for those below the God Lord level. Given their concealment techniques, how could ordinary ancient gods possibly discover them? Even if a God Lord used their divine sense to discover them, they should have sensed something. Retreat. God Lord Gloomhaven suddenly felt uneasy. But he had barely finished speaking when two powerful God Lord auras erupted from nearby, causing the red mist of the scorching underworld to roil and roil. Whoosh! 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 Three figures rapidly approached God Lord Gloomhaven and God Lord Evil Spirit. Since you've come, there's no need to leave. The Grand Elder called out, his face dignified. Not good. We really were discovered. God Lord Evil Spirit grimaced. But his mind was filled with questions. How had Giant God Hall discovered them? Yellow heaven thick earth. The Grand Elder's body surged with divine power, exuding a powerful law of earth. Kaboom! Suddenly, the heaven and earth plane shook violently and became incomparably dark. An immense pressure descended on the two God Lords of ancient Soul Hall, causing their bodies to sink and their speed to slow. Boom! The Grand Elder waved his right hand. The earth below him trembled, and a dark red mountain suddenly shot out toward the ancient Soul Hall God Lords. Retreat! God Lord Gloomhaven called out. The two of them were both First Heaven God Lords, and Xian Wuheng and the Grand Elder were both top-class First Heaven God Lords. Moreover, this was the territory of Giant God Hall. At the same time, the two of them used their law energy to resist the Grand Elder's suppression. Bone-devouring Ghost Claw. God Lord Evil Spirit roared, releasing countless black-robed evil spirits from his black robe. These indistinct evil spirits extended their claws, forming a massive and sinister ghost claw that tore at the dark red mountain. Boom! Bang! Crash! The sinister ghost claw and the dark red mountain were both pulverized. After blocking the next wave of attacks, the two prepared to retreat. But Xian Wuheng's attack had already arrived. Boom! Bang! Two enormous palms made of five-colored vortexes descended upon Qin Nan in a domineering manner that could crush everything in its path. This attack contained a sliver of a fire law, and it immediately stirred up the fire energy in the world, causing its power to swell. This Xian Wuheng's strength is also far above ours. God Lord Gloomhaven's eyes dimmed. Moreover, Xian Wuheng had a sliver of a fire law, giving him an advantage in this battle. God Lord Evil Spirit immediately activated the white bone necklace around his neck. This was a supreme quality defensive divine artifact, and it immediately flashed with light as it unleashed layers of gray-white bone walls in front of him. Broom! Xian Wuheng's attack fiercely crashed against God Lord Evil Spirit's defensive supreme quality divine artifact. The layers of grayish-white skeletons immediately emitted countless "kacha" sounds before finally shattering. But Xian Wuheng's attack was also greatly weakened, and the remaining power was easily blocked by the two God Lords. Chaos Origin Divine Sword. Zhao Feng's left eye pulsed with eye intent, the Chaos Origin Divine Power within rapidly condensing into two Chaos Origin Divine Swords. But at this moment, he felt a swelling pain in his left eye. Within the God Eye dimension, the dreamy silver ball trembled as if it had reached its limit and could no longer endure the origin energy within it. Thud-ish. Thud-ish. The two miniature Chaos Origin Divine Swords suddenly exploded forward, stabbing at the two enemy God Lords. As they flew, they rapidly devoured the energy of the world to strengthen themselves. What powerful energy! The Grand Elder stared in shock at the two miniature Chaos Origin Divine Swords. This brat, hurry and dodge. His attack isn't simple. God Lord Gloomhaven recognized Zhao Feng and grimaced. In their eyes, Zhao Feng was just a half-step God Lord, and they had been focused on retreating, so they hadn't paid much attention to Zhao Feng at the start. But now, Zhao Feng's powerful eye bloodline technique finally caused God Lord Gloomhaven to take Zhao Feng seriously. Swoosh swoosh. The two Chaos Origin Divine Swords were extremely fast, and they were also imbued with time intent. Ah! God Lord Evil Spirit screamed as a hole appeared in his chest, black blood gushing out of it. But the other Chaos Origin Divine Sword brushed past God Lord Gloomhaven's shoulder. Just now. God Lord Gloomhaven broke out in cold sweat in shock. Under the Grand Elder's gravity intent and the influence of time intent, he should have been unable to dodge. But Zhao Feng's eye bloodline technique had missed him. Missed? On the other side, Zhao Feng's brow creased. At this moment, he was sure that his soul intent had reached the level of a God Lord, making his God spiritual eye even stronger and his eye bloodline techniques even more powerful. But when he used eye bloodline techniques, his left eye felt somewhat uncomfortable, causing him to make a slight mistake. But in the eyes of Xian Wuheng and the Grand Elder, Zhao Feng's eye bloodline technique just now was extraordinarily powerful. For it to injure God Lord Evil Spirit was already incredible. Perhaps this was Zhao Feng's killing move, so it was normal for him to not be able to control it well. Kill. Ancient Soul Hall God Lords, kill them. At this moment, 3 half-step God Lords from Giant God Hall's Divine Kingdom arrived. Frenzied Heaven Slash. A savage black axe appeared in Ancient God Giant Devil's hand, and he swung it, unleashing a black axe image several hundred feet long. The other 2 half-step God Lords also used powerful techniques to surround and attack the 2 Ancient Soul Hall God Lords. Retreat. God Lord Gloomhaven had a worried look on his face. Now that the half-step God Lords of Giant God Hall had arrived, the situation was getting worse and worse. Buzz. Bzzz. God Lord Gloomhaven used some sort of secret art. His body flashed with black light as he shot through the air. On the other side, God Lord Evil Spirit also used a secret art and prepared to leave. Spacetime Seal. Zhao Feng's left eye focused on God Lord Evil Spirit's body, and powerful ripples of spacetime energy appeared. In a flash, a strange energy that seemed both real and illusory descended on God Lord Evil Spirit's body. At this moment, his thoughts and movements slowed down, and he was unable to immediately use his secret art to escape. Good. The Giant God Hall side rejoiced and cheered. Giant God Finger. Xian Wuheng immediately activated his bloodline power and thrust out a finger. Boom. Bang. Under the influence of spacetime energy, God Lord Evil Spirit's reaction speed dropped and his resistance weakened. He was sent flying several li by Xian Wuheng. God Lord Evil Spirit. God Lord Gloomhaven turned his head and called out. At this moment, God Lord Evil Spirit was completely surrounded by the members of Giant God Hall and had no chance of escaping. Another group of peak rank 9 experts emerged from Giant God Hall's Divine Kingdom. If God Lord Gloomhaven returned at this time, he would be doomed. God Lord Gloomhaven clenched his teeth and retreated alone. Die, Ancient Soul Hall God Lord. The members of Giant God Hall sealed off God Lord Evil Spirit's path of retreat and attacked him. No. God Lord Evil Spirit was in a sorry state as he howled in despair. Against 2 top-class First Heaven God Lords like Xian Wuheng and the Grand Elder, he had no chance of escaping. If I'm going to die, I'll pull one of them down with me. God Lord Evil Spirit's face was filled with hate as he decided to self-detonate. He's going to self-detonate. Zhao Feng pointed out as God Lord Evil Spirit was about to self-detonate. Xin Wuhan grimaced and fired off a palm of five-colored vortex energy that pushed God Lord Evil Spirit back several li, divine earth suppression. The Grand Elder brought his hands together, the earth law in his palms surging. Boom! A domain of golden earth appeared in the sky above God Lord Evil Spirit and rumbled down. God Lord Evil Spirit was greatly suppressed by this domain of golden earth. Coupled with his heavy injuries, his resistance was extremely low. Hell Spike. At this moment, dark red scorching earth spikes suddenly emerged from the ground and pierced through God Lord Evil Spirit's body. Die. In the end, Xin Wuhan unleashed a powerful palm that obliterated God Lord Evil Spirit's soul. Ancient Soul Hall lost a God Lord. Truly reckless. Only two God Lords dared to get so close to Giant God Hall. The surrounding Giant God Hall members cried out in alarm. The battle had not even begun, but a God Lord of Ancient Soul Hall had committed such a grave mistake and been killed by the combined forces of Giant God Hall. In this way, the difference in strength between the two sides was once more reduced. All of this is thanks to Zhao Feng. Ancient God Giant Devil's face glowed as he gave Zhao Feng a confident look. If not for the fact that Zhao Feng had discovered the enemy and notified the God Lords of Giant God Hall, they would have found it very difficult to kill an enemy God Lord. Although Ancient God Giant Devil had targeted Zhao Feng before, that was because too many people's lives were at stake in this war. But this time, Zhao Feng had once more rendered a great service. He was expressing goodwill and apologizing for his previous actions. Chapter 1440. All of this is thanks to Zhao Feng. Ancient God Giant Devil's face was flushed red as he gave Zhao Feng a confident look. If not for the fact that Zhao Feng had discovered the enemy and notified the Giant God Hall God Lords, they would have found it very difficult to kill a God Lord of Ancient Soul Hall. However, no one knew how Zhao Feng had managed to do this. Zhao Feng, many thanks for coming to help Giant God Hall. You've made a great contribution again. The higher-ups who didn't think highly of Zhao Feng before also expressed their goodwill. Soon after, all of Giant God Hall returned to the Divine Kingdom. Although they had killed a God Lord of Ancient Soul Hall, the overall strength of Ancient Soul Hall was still greater than that of Giant God Hall. Moreover, once they left the scorching underworld, Ancient Soul Hall would no longer be suppressed by the environment, and their situation would only worsen for Giant God Hall. Thus, they did not pursue. Upon returning to the Divine Kingdom of the Giant God race, this exciting news immediately spread. A God Lord of Ancient Soul Hall was killed by our side. Great! Before the two factions had even started fighting, Ancient Soul Hall had already lost a God Lord. This made all the members of Giant God Hall feel that victory was possible. After returning to Giant God Hall's Divine Kingdom, Zhao Feng sought out Nan Gongsheng and Kuan Yun. Compared to before, both of them had greatly improved in all aspects. Nan Gongsheng was already a rank 8 ancient god while Kuan Yun was a rank 5 ancient god. Apart from their cultivation, their temperaments had also undergone tremendous changes. Sure enough, danger and battle could stimulate a martial artist's potential and make them stronger. But in the following battle, Giant God Hall's chances were slim, and it was bound to be a bitter and bitter one. He once again gave his two friends some life-saving trump cards, hoping that they would be able to survive the upcoming battle. On the other side, upon returning, God Lord Gloomhaven immediately led Ancient Soul Hall to the perimeter of the scorching underworld. Sigh, I didn't expect it to be like this. God Lord Gloomhaven sorrowfully sighed, somewhat blaming himself. If he had stopped God Lord Evil Spirit back then, things wouldn't have turned out this way. 5 days later, another God Lord of Ancient Soul Hall arrived. God Lord Gloomhaven, what's going on? A short elder sensed that something was wrong. God Lord Ghost Centipede, this is what happened. God Lord Gloomhaven explained everything that had happened. God Lord Ghost Centipede was the Grand Elder of Ancient Soul Hall. In terms of strength and resources, he was a top-class first heaven existence. What? God Lord Ghost Centipede grimaced in rage. There was another reason why the ancient gods of the two sides had suffered such miserable losses. Giant God Hall had the geographical advantage. However, God Lord Gloomhaven and God Lord Evil Spirit had secretly infiltrated the center, but they were discovered by Giant God Hall first, resulting in God Lord Evil Spirit's death. No matter how one looked at it, the fault lay with the two of them. Ancient Soul Hall had lost a God Lord. In the ancient desolate realm of gods, God Lords were considered the strongest fighting power. It took a lot of time and effort to create a God Lord. And this time, Ancient Soul Hall had lost a God Lord, and to Giant God Hall at that. How could God Lord Ghost Centipede not be infuriated? However, anger was anger. Since things had already come to this, there was nothing he could do to change it. Another month passed. Why isn't the Hall Master here yet? God Lord Gloomhaven found this strange. Based on what the ancient Soul Hall Master said, he should have arrived half a month ago. The moment he finished speaking, a heavy and oppressive energy descended, causing the temperature of the scorching underworld to plummet. Swish! A pitch-black mist appeared in the air, within which was a blurry black figure. What's the situation like? The ancient Soul Hall Master glanced at God Lord Gloomhaven and coldly asked. He had indeed arrived half a month later than the agreed time. The main reason was that he had been delayed by many matters, both big and small, along the way. Even he found it strange that so many accidents had occurred. As a second heaven God Lord, he sensed that there was definitely something strange going on. The situation is terrible. God Lord Gloomhaven's voice was weak as he recounted everything that had happened. What? God Lord Evil Spirit is dead. The ancient Soul Hall Master flew into a rage. In a flash, the entire world became dark and gloomy. All the living beings in a radius of several 100,000 li dropped to the ground and trembled. Even God Lord Gloomhaven felt extremely uncomfortable under the pressure of the ancient Soul Hall Master. Hall Master, forgive me. God Lord Gloomhaven immediately begged for mercy. Their Hall Master had a rather irascible temper. If the Hall Master attacked him in a fit of rage, he would be doomed. Hall Master, this is not entirely God Lord Gloomhaven's fault. I feel like there's something strange about this giant God Hall. God Lord Ghost Centipede immediately stepped forward to advise. But what he said was also the truth. In normal circumstances, Ancient Soul Hall should have never suffered such a miserable defeat in those minor clashes. But the reality was that Ancient Soul Hall had been utterly defeated. Humph. The Ancient Soul Hall Master somewhat calmed down under God Lord Ghost Centipede's advice. At any other time, he would have severely punished God Lord Gloomhaven, but not now. If God Lord Gloomhaven could not participate in the battle, it would be rather troublesome for them to deal with Giant God Hall. Hall Master, although I made a grave mistake this time, we also figured out the ins and outs of Giant God Hall. God Lord Gloomhaven broke out in a cold sweat as he spoke. Speak. The ancient Soul Hall Master casually said. He had a certain understanding of Giant God Hall's ins and outs. In his view, no matter what, Giant God Hall had no chance of victory. But in this brief clash, Ancient Soul Hall had suffered grievous losses. This made him rather confused as to how Giant God Hall had managed to do it. Not long ago, I discovered a newly born God Lord will in the vicinity of Giant God Hall, but in the battle, they only sent out 2 God Lords, the Grand Elder of Giant God Hall and Xin Wuhan. God Lord Gloomhaven gravely said, as for the middle and upper echelon members, Giant God Hall is naturally far inferior to us. Based on my estimates, they don't have more than 6 half-step God Lords. A new God Lord will. The ancient Soul Hall Master was alarmed, but he didn't really care about anything else. A single God Lord could have a very large effect on a battle. If he misjudged the God Lord fighting power of the other side, the consequences would be extremely severe. Even if Giant God Hall has a new God Lord, they won't be able to last for long against veteran God Lords like us. God Lord Ghost Centipede slowly said. Although God Lord Evil Spirit was dead, Ancient Soul Hall still had 3 God Lords. Giant God Hall originally had 2 God Lords, so even if a new God Lord was born, whether it was in terms of God Lord fighting power or middle and upper echelon members, it was still inferior to Ancient Soul Hall. Hall Master, when do we attack? God Lord Gloomhaven asked. Wait a little longer. Once all the soldiers have gathered, we'll destroy Giant God Hall in one fell swoop. The Ancient Soul Hall Master's eyes were cold and harsh. If he personally attacked, he had to use overwhelming strength to defeat his foe. Another half a month later, the Ancient Soul Hall Master suddenly opened his eyes, took out a message token, and read a message. You've finally come. The Ancient Soul Hall Master stood up and ended his seclusion. Attack. Destroy Giant God Hall. The Ancient Soul Hall Master's domineering and cold voice echoed through the world, causing the temperature of the scorching underworld to drop. In a certain part of the scorching underworld, 2 leisurely figures were standing. Are you sure that Yu Heng died to Giant God Hall? A white-haired middle-aged man asked. Next to him was a tall and muscular elder, his body covered in ancient runes. His white beard reached the ground, and he held a silver wooden staff in his hand. His eyes were as deep as the starry sky. This elder was none other than God Lord Stellar Aspect. Although I cannot deduce who killed Heng-Er, I can deduce that Heng-Er did not encounter a divine master in the light race's divine kingdom. God Lord Stellar Aspect's eyes were extremely gloomy. Yu Heng's death caused him to suffer a lot of blame. He was Yu Heng's master, a second heaven God Lord, but he had killed Yu Heng, someone with the ancient race bloodline. Moreover, God Lord Stellar Aspect didn't even know how Yu Heng died. Thus, God Lord Stellar Aspect's primary goal this time was to investigate the cause of Yu Heng's death. The war between Ancient Soul Hall and Giant God Hall was secondary. Yu Heng had 20 to 30% of the ancient race's bloodline power, so he could even contend against an ordinary God Lord. But in the light race's divine kingdom, Yu Heng had not encountered a divine master-level combatant, yet he had died a miserable death. If it wasn't a God Lord, then who had the ability to kill Yu Heng, who had the ancient race bloodline? Moreover, only people from Giant God Hall had entered the light race's divine kingdom, so Giant God Hall was the most likely candidate. I will definitely find the murderer and avenge Heng-Er. God Lord Stellar Aspect's expression was cold and harsh. Within Giant God Hall's divine kingdom, the Ancient Soul Hall Master has already arrived, and his forces have mostly gathered. It probably won't be long before he attacks. The Grand Elder was deeply worried. Although they had killed a God Lord of Ancient Soul Hall, Giant God Hall was still far weaker than them in terms of overall strength. If we defend this place with all our strength, we still have a decent chance. Ancient God Giant Devil called out. In a direct confrontation, Giant God Hall was bound to suffer a crushing defeat. But if they took defensive measures, there was hope. At this moment, the entire Giant God Hall divine kingdom began to tremble. Ancient Soul Hall is here. Xin Wuhan grimaced and immediately charged out. At the same time, all the members of Giant God Hall began to move out of the divine kingdom. The moment they left, Giant God Hall could see Ancient Soul Hall members all around them. In terms of numbers, Ancient Soul Hall seemed to have even fewer members than Giant God Hall. But this was because this was the center of the scorching underworld, and the weakest member of the Ancient Soul Hall army was a rank 6 ancient god. Although they had fewer people, they were all high-level experts. In terms of fighting power, they far surpassed Giant God Hall. Kiki, Giant God Hall has developed rather well. The Ancient Soul Hall Master wickedly chuckled as he teased. When he saw Giant God Hall's army, he was completely relieved. All the members of Giant God Hall had gloomy expressions. As for those beneath the ancient god level, they were only safe under the protection of a high-rank ancient god. Kill! The ancient Soul Hall Master immediately ordered. All the experts of ancient Soul Hall charged forward. Activate the Hall Protection Array. Xin Wuhan called out. Buzz! Bzzz! Countless white threads of light emerged from the ground, creating an extremely complex array. Kaboom! A barrier of runes gradually formed, enveloping the members of Giant God Hall. Four dark yellow statues stood on the four sides of the barrier, their hands gripping sabers, swords, spears, and staffs. Every part of the barrier was covered in the profound characters of the Heaven's Legacy race. Inside the array, none of the members were affected by the poisonous mist. Xin Wuhan had brought this array from the Light Race's divine kingdom. After being modified and repaired, it could be used as he wished. As expected, it's the Heaven's Legacy race array. The ancient Soul Hall Master was not very surprised. This was because God Lord Stellar Aspect had already told him what sort of trump cards Giant God Hall might have. Chapter 1441. As expected, it's the Heaven's Legacy race array. The ancient Soul Hall Master was not very surprised. This was because God Lord Stellar Aspect had already told him what sort of trump cards Giant God Hall might have. The Heaven's Legacy race array was also within God Lord Stellar Aspect's expectations. But even with this array, Giant God Hall still could not contend against the powerful ancient Soul Hall, so he was not worried at all. Kill! The experts of ancient Soul Hall were not too surprised and continued to attack. Broom! In a flash, the sky was filled with dark and chaotic light that rumbled toward Giant God Hall's Heaven's Legacy array. At this moment, the eyes of the four statues around the Heaven's Legacy array suddenly flashed as if they had come to life. Several dozen ancient god experts within the Heaven's Legacy array controlled the four statues to launch a counterattack. With so much manpower gathered, each statue was slightly stronger than an ordinary half-step god lord. The members of Giant God Hall worked with the Heaven's Legacy array to attack. Boom! Bang! Crash! The two sides fiercely clashed, the massive shockwaves causing all of the scorching underworld to tremble and the scorching poisonous mist in the sky to wreak havoc. But ancient Soul Hall had far too many upper echelon experts. After pushing back Giant God Hall's attack, the rest of the energy landed on the Heaven's Legacy array. Defend! Several array masters controlled the Heaven's Legacy array to transform into a defensive form. Ding! The weapons in the hands of the four statues collided with each other, forming an extremely powerful defensive barrier around the formation. At this moment, the three god lords of ancient Soul Hall suddenly attacked. Even if they had the upper echelon experts, they would find it very difficult to win if they did not destroy the god lords of Giant God Hall. Go! Xin Wuhan's expression darkened as he called out. Xin Wuhan, the Grand Elder, Ancient God Giant Devil, and Zhao Feng all charged out of the array. Ancient Soul Hall had 3 God Lords, and Giant God Hall needed to hold down 3 God Lords for any chance of victory. But Giant God Hall only had 2 God Lords, so it could only dispatch half-step God Lords to deal with 1 God Lord. Zhao Feng and God Lord Giant Devil were the strongest half-step God Lords of Giant God Hall, so they shouldered this heavy responsibility. Zhao Feng, let's work together to deal with God Lord Gloomhaven. This fellow is famous for being difficult to deal with. God Lord Giant Devil solemnly said. He had not expected to fight a God Lord, but for the survival of Giant God Hall, he could only throw caution to the wind. Zhao Feng nodded. The 3 God Lords of Ancient Soul Hall were all rather strong. The Hall Master was a second heaven while the Short Elder was a peak first heaven. God Lord Gloomhaven was also extremely powerful, much stronger than the God Lord Fire Cloud that Zhao Feng had fought. Giant God Hall actually sent 2 half-step God Lords to deal with me. God Lord Gloomhaven couldn't help but laugh. However, he was extremely confused. Didn't Giant God Hall have a newly ascended God Lord? Why didn't he show himself? However, he couldn't be bothered to think too much about it. Right now, there was a person in front of him that he really wanted to kill, and that was Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng had played an important role in God Lord Evil Spirit's death. On the other side, Xian Wuheng went to meet the ancient Soul Hall Master. Humph, you overestimate yourself. The ancient Soul Hall Master couldn't help but jeer. In his last life, he would have been no match for Xian Wuheng in a one-on-one fight. But Xian Wuheng was still far from reaching the level of his last life. 5 elements law-shattering palm. Xian Wuheng did not dare to be careless. His opponent was a second heaven God Lord, so he had to fight with all his strength. Kaboom! 5 vortexes of divine power appeared on his palm. As he thrust out this palm, a massive 5-colored vortex of light formed. A sliver of a fire law rapidly absorbed the fire energy of the world to strengthen itself. Break! The ancient Soul Hall Master bellowed as he thrust out both hands. A dark pillar of light instantly took shape and shot forward. The terrifying energy contained within this pillar of light was enough to devour and annihilate all in its path. Boom! Bang! The 2 enormous energies collided, but a few moments later, Xian Wuheng's attack was pulverized by the pitch-black pillar of light. Xian Wuheng's face was extremely grave as he used all his techniques to defend. Haha, today, the Hall Master will personally kill you. The ancient Soul Hall Master heartily laughed as he floated forward. Boom! Bang! Crash! The top-class God Lords of the 2 factions fiercely clashed, the terrifying ripples of energy shaking the world. Although Xian Wuheng was slightly weaker than the ancient Soul Hall Master, he had the geographical advantage here. Moreover, he was skilled in defense and dispersal, so he could hold on for now. However, if this continued, Xian Wuheng would only lose to a second heaven God Lord. On the other end, ancient Soul Hall's God Lord Ghost Centipede and the giant God Race Grand Elder were old rivals, but they were evenly matched. On the whole, Giant God Hall was able to hold on for now in the God Lord battlefield. But, in the battle below the God Lord level, Giant God Hall was in grave danger. Kill! Hurry and break the array! The upper echelon experts of Ancient Soul Hall were scattered around the Heaven's Legacy array and madly attacking. In terms of numbers of half-step God Lords, Ancient Soul Hall far outnumbered Giant God Hall, and there was no need to talk about the rank 9 and rank 8 ancient gods. At this moment, the members of Giant God Hall could only passively defend within the Heaven's Legacy array. The array was constantly giving off enormous ripples as if it could shatter at any moment. Ha! In the sky, the 3 God Lords of Ancient Soul Hall heartily laughed. Even if Giant God Hall had the geographical advantage and the Heaven's Legacy array, their defeat would not change. Zhao Feng, you're truly an idiot. Instead of staying in the spiritual race, you came here to throw away your life. God Lord Gloomhaven jeered. Even if Zhao Feng had an extremely high status in the spiritual race, he had participated in a war between 5-star factions of another zone. Even if he died, Ancient Soul Hall would not have to bear much responsibility. Swoosh! God Lord Gloomhaven wielded a pitch-black dagger, which he swung, unleashing dark ripples of water. These ripples were infused with a law of water and shadow intent, and they flew toward Zhao Feng, ancient god Giant Devil. Oh no! Ancient god Giant Devil couldn't dodge in time, and one of the ripples left a large wound on his body. Moreover, God Lord Gloomhaven's attack was extremely damaging to the soul. God Lord Giant Devil felt like his soul was being drowned in a furious wave. God Lord experts truly are extraordinary. God Lord Giant Devil grimaced. If it was an ordinary God Lord, he and Zhao Feng might have been able to fight back. But God Lord Gloomhaven was extremely strong and famous for being difficult to deal with. Zhao Feng, on the other hand, was a little more relaxed. The-ish. Wearing the spacetime robe, Zhao Feng rapidly flew through the air, and with the perceptive abilities of the god's spiritual eye, he was able to dodge all the attacks. Damn! This kid has a supreme quality divine artifact like the spacetime robe. God Lord Gloomhaven's eyes focused on the dark silver robe on Zhao Feng's body. Even amongst supreme quality divine artifacts, the spacetime robe was an extremely impressive divine artifact, combining defense, speed, and support into one. What was even rarer was that Zhao Feng's spacetime intent was also extremely powerful. When used with the spacetime robe, his speed was on par with an ordinary godlord's. Earth Dragon Beast. God Lord Gloomhaven waved his robe, sending forth a dark soul beast that looked like both a dragon and a fish. Flood Dragon Kill. Divine power surged through God Lord Gloomhaven's body as he unleashed one massive wave of energy after another. The Earth Dragon Beast also flew into the air, using a powerful secret art to work with God Lord Gloomhaven. Boom! The Earth Dragon Beast's body swelled, and it charged at Zhao Feng, an ancient god giant devil with a massive tornado of black water. Retreat! It's too strong. Ancient god giant devil grimaced. At this moment, God Lord Gloomhaven was attacking with all his strength. His body and soul were instinctively trembling in fear. In the face of such a terrifying attack, he would probably be instantly killed. Boom! Swoosh! The black waterspout rushed over, stirring up heaven and earth. Ancient god giant devil immediately fled, avoiding the range of the attack. Of course, God Lord Gloomhaven's target was Zhao Feng, or else ancient god giant devil would not have been able to escape so easily. Die, Zhao Feng! God Lord Gloomhaven roared. The pitch-black tornado was controlled by the Earth Dragon Beast, and it pursued Zhao Feng as if it wanted to swallow him whole. However, Zhao Feng's time intent had reached the peak of level 8, allowing him to affect the attacks of the soul beasts behind him while also increasing his own speed. The situation isn't good. As Zhao Feng dodged God Lord Gloomhaven's attacks, he also observed the entire battlefield. On the God Lord battlefield, Giant God Hall was on the losing end, and on the God Lord battlefield, Giant God Hall was on the verge of collapse. The Heaven's Legacy array could be broken by the ancient Soul Hall experts at any moment. Even if I call out my clone and Little Black, I'll find it very difficult to reverse the situation. Zhao Feng couldn't help but shake his head. Although Xian Wuheng had obtained many precious resources, ancient Soul Hall was stubbornly refusing to let go. Giant God Hall had no chance to catch its breath or develop. If not for this, the situation would not have been so one-sided. Since that's the case, I can only do this. Zhao Feng's expression darkened as he sent a part of his mind into the dreamy silver ball in his God-eye dimension. Brat, you dare to get distracted while fighting me. God Lord Gloomhaven was infuriated by the absent-minded look on Zhao Feng's face. But at this moment, Zhao Feng suddenly stopped. Spatial ripples appeared around him. In an instant, several figures rushed out from within. It's them. God Lord Gloomhaven's eyes flashed. These people were none other than the 3 God-eye descendants and the Destruction Dragon race experts. So they're all your people. But even so, you have no chance of winning. God Lord Gloomhaven coldly sneered. Zhao Feng's helpers were all rank 9, so they wouldn't be able to affect the battle. But before he could finish speaking, God Lord Gloomhaven's face froze in confusion. Swish! Swish! The spatial ripples around Zhao Feng did not stop, and several more enormous figures charged out. These were massive red Qilins. Roar! Nearly 10 blood flame Qilins charged out, all of them around rank 8 or rank 9. They roared in unison, causing the temperature of the scorching underworld to rise. But this was not the end. Once the blood flame Qilins charged out, many more powerful ancient beasts charged out of the void. In the ancient dream realm, Zhao Wan had used the blood flame Qilin race as his foundation. Through constant warfare, he had expanded his territory and gained many experts from other races. This God Lord Gloomhaven was dumbfounded. In a flash, an army of ancient beasts appeared at Zhao Feng's side. What's going on? The God Lords on the other side were also stunned by this sight. How had so many experts suddenly appeared in this dimension? What's going on here? Ancient God Giant Devil stood like a statue in indescribable shock. He wasn't far from Zhao Feng, so he could naturally tell that these ancient beasts had been summoned by Zhao Feng. Down below, the two fiercely battling factions mostly stopped what they were doing and looked up at the horizon. Your Excellency, the Patriarch is at a crucial moment in his breakthrough. A peak rank 9 Qilin of the blood flame Qilin race reported to Zhao Feng. Kill! Zhao Feng ordered. This time, he had mobilized almost all the high-level fighting power he had, including his clones, mounts, and the factions of the ancient dream realm. Kill! All the ancient beasts roared as they charged down into the battlefield. Not good. It's an enemy. Impossible. How could Giant God Hall have so many helpers? Ancient Soul Hall's forces were thrown into disarray. Within the Heaven's Legacy array, all the Giant God Hall members cried out in alarm and began to counterattack. In the sky, Ancient God Giant Devil, withdraw for now. Leave God Lord Gloomhaven to me. Zhao Feng snorted, his eyes turning serious as he unleashed an invisible killing intent. This killing intent was something that only someone who had experienced endless slaughter could possess. Bzzz. Chaos Origin Divine Power surged in Zhao Feng's hand, forming a broad Chaos Origin Divine Sword that exuded a powerful attractive force that devoured the surrounding energy. Chapter 1442. In a flash, a large number of ancient beasts charged into the middle and upper echelon members of the battlefield, working with the Giant God Hall members to launch a pincer attack. At this moment, the ancient god experts of Ancient Soul Hall were caught off guard and thrown into disarray. This change made the Ancient God Hall God Lord grimace and grimace. Xin Wuheng and the Grand Elder, on the other hand, rejoiced, and the morale of Giant God Hall soared. Ancient God Giant Devil, withdraw for now. Leave God Lord Gloomhaven to me. Zhao Feng grunted. Bzzz. Chaos Origin Divine Power surged in Zhao Feng's hand, condensing into a broad Chaos Origin Divine Sword that exuded a powerful attractive force that devoured the energy around it. Ancient God Giant Devil sensed the ripples of divine power in Zhao Feng's hand, and in shock, he retreated. Of his Chaos Origin Divine Power, his space intent had reached the 9th level, and his time intent had reached the peak of the 8th level. There were also many other intents that were of high levels. This made Zhao Feng's Chaos Origin Divine Power so powerful that it was equivalent to the divine power of a God Lord. Brat, you think too highly of yourself. God Lord Gloomhaven was enraged. Zhao Feng had actually ordered Ancient God Giant Devil to retreat and face him alone. This was simply an insult to him. One had to realize that God Lord Gloomhaven had recently gotten much stronger, and he could now easily crush ordinary God Lords. For a half-step God Lord like Zhao Feng to dare to challenge him alone was simply a joke. Kill! God Lord Gloomhaven ordered, and his soul beast charged at Zhao Feng, surrounded by a tornado of black water. Chaos Origin Divine Sword, slash! Fearless, Zhao Feng gripped his sword with both hands and slashed down. Boom! Swish! A dark silver sword slammed into the tornado of black water, sending black streams of water flying everywhere. At first, Zhao Feng's hands trembled. At the same time, an invisible soul energy spread towards him. But his soul was as firm as a boulder, unaffected. All external energy was like a stone sinking into the ocean. In addition, the Chaos Origin Divine Sword was absorbing the energy of the tornado of black water, and its power was gradually increasing. Die. The god power in Zhao Feng's body surged as he slashed down. At this moment, the power of his Chaos Origin Divine Sword far surpassed the attack of God Lord Gloomhaven's Soul Beast. Even the earthly dragon beasts in the black waterspout sensed that something was wrong and flew away in advance. Boom! With a single slash, the black water tornado shattered. This is impossible. God Lord Gloomhaven shook his head in shock. With his strength, how could his attack be countered by Zhao Feng? Xiao! After shattering God Lord Gloomhaven's attack, Zhao Feng shot forward and began to approach. Dragon Slaughter. God Lord Gloomhaven grimaced, the pitch-black dagger in his hand surging with divine power. At the same time, the Earth Dragon Beast returned to his side and fused into the divine artifact in God Lord Gloomhaven's hand. Boom! God Lord Gloomhaven waved the blade in his hand, unleashing a black dragon of energy that shook the heavens and shook the soul. God Lord Gloomhaven had not taken these two half-step God Lords seriously before, but this time, he used his full strength. Chaos Origin Tribulation Lightning Sword. In the face of God Lord Gloomhaven, Zhao Feng could no longer hold back. Swish! On the broad dusky silver sword, countless lightning lines instantly surged, densely covering the entire sword. Die! The Chaos Origin Tribulation Lightning Sword in Zhao Feng's hand unleashed a bolt of Chaos Origin Tribulation Lightning energy at the Black Dragon Wave. Bang! As the Black Dragon Wave was struck by Zhao Feng's attack, endless Chaos Origin Tribulation Lightning energy poured down, destroying and devouring all other energy. The Black Dragon Wave slowed down and its momentum weakened. The-ish. Zhao Feng brushed past it and charged at God Lord Gloomhaven. What a powerful divine power attack. God Lord Gloomhaven's eyes froze in shock. It was understandable that he had been holding back earlier, allowing Zhao Feng to break his attack. But he had used all his strength just now, and Zhao Feng had blocked it. Just as Zhao Feng's Chaos Origin Tribulation Lightning Sword was about to slash down, God Lord Gloomhaven immediately dodged. Based on what had happened just now, Zhao Feng's divine power attack was on par with his. This was simply unbelievable. The divine power attack of a half-step God Lord was actually able to contend against a top-class First Heaven God Lord. Didn't you want to kill me? Why are you running? Zhao Feng's cold laughter came from behind him. Ninth Heaven Space, peak 8th Heaven Time, and the space-time robe allowed Zhao Feng to move a little faster than God Lord Gloomhaven. As he sensed Zhao Feng getting closer and closer, God Lord Gloomhaven began to panic. Swoosh! Countless bolts of Chaos Origin Tribulation Lightning energy shot out from behind him. God Lord Gloomhaven's body seemed to transform into countless streams of water, twisting and dispersing as he dodged Zhao Feng's attack. This scene was naturally witnessed by the other people present. Good, Brother Zhao. Xian Wuheng was rather excited. Given the strength Zhao Feng had displayed, he guessed that the God Lord that had appeared earlier had been Zhao Feng. How could he be this strong? The Grand Elder of Giant God Hall was also stunned. On the other side, the two God Lords of Ancient Soul Hall had extremely grim expressions. A God Lord of Ancient Soul Hall was actually being chased around by a half-step God Lord. Even if Ancient Soul Hall won in the end, it would still be a laughingstock. Moreover, whether or not Ancient Soul Hall could win was still a question. The sudden appearance of the ancient beasts in the upper echelon battle had dealt a severe blow to Ancient Soul Hall's side. Among them, the Blood Flame Chelan race was skilled in fire intent, and in this scorching environment, their strength was boosted. Yes, at this moment, Giant God Hall had the upper hand in the upper echelon battle. Bzzz. Kaboom. At this moment, the earth suddenly began to tremble, and the temperature of the world began to soar. What's going on? Ancient God Giant Devil trembled. Kaboom. At that instant, the ground below cracked open, causing scorching magma to burst out from the ground. A scorching poisonous mist swept across the entire heavens and earth. Ah! A rank 7 ancient god of ancient Soul Hall felt the poisonous flames attack his heart, and his eyes went red as he screamed. As for giant god Hall, they were within the heaven's legacy array and were unaffected. This is the scorching natural calamity of the scorching underworld, a phenomenon rarely seen even in 100 million years. It's rumored that when this place experiences the scorching calamity, the terrifying fire poison will affect even rank 8 ancient gods, and if a rank 7 ancient god is careless and comes in contact with too much poison fire, they might even die. Ancient Soul Hall's god Lord Ghost Centipede had a gloomy expression. Originally, the outcome of the battle between Ancient Soul Hall and Giant God Hall wasn't very clear. But the moment the scorching natural calamity appeared, Ancient Soul Hall was even more affected, and the battle once more tilted in their favor. The heavens are helping my Giant God Hall. The Grand Elder's face was flushed with excitement. In the distance, God Lord Stellar Aspect and a white-haired man looked around, their eyes flashing. This is Destiny Dao energy. God Lord Stellar Aspect muttered in shock. At this moment, he once more sensed that Destiny Dao energy that had interfered with him time and time again. Yes, the natural calamity that had suddenly appeared in the Forbidden Ground had been driven by powerful Destiny Dao energy. Ordinary people would find it difficult to sense, but he could clearly sense it. The thought of this Destiny Dao energy caused God Lord Stellar Aspect's face to turn extremely gloomy. This Destiny Dao energy was even stronger than his own. He even suspected that the reason he was suddenly stopped from entering the Light Race Divine Kingdom was also because of this Destiny Dao energy. When he thought of this, God Lord Stellar Aspect felt a tinge of apprehension. He was well versed in the Destiny Dao, so he naturally understood just how powerful this energy was. God Lord Silverwing, Ancient Soul Hall is in a bad situation. You should go. God Lord Stellar Aspect straightforwardly said. I've been impatient for a long time. The white-haired man's eyes flashed, and his body began to strangely exude layers of white light. In a flash of light, God Lord Silverwing vanished and reappeared on the battlefield. Who is it? Xin Wuheng and the Grand Elder were both stunned. Why had a powerful God Lord energy suddenly appeared here? Really, all of you? You still haven't finished off Giant God Hall, and you still need me to go. God Lord Silverwing scornfully glanced at the 3 ancient Soul Hall God Lords. These words caused all the members of Giant God Hall to grimace and their hearts to sink to the bottom. Ancient Soul Hall actually had another God Lord. Please go and end all of this. The Ancient Soul Hall Master coldly said. Of course. God Lord Silverwing faintly smiled. Suddenly, his entire body began to flash with white light, gradually turning transparent. It seemed like countless streams of light were flowing through his body. At the same time, an ancient energy that could shake the heavens began to spread. All the nearby experts below the God Lord level felt like their hearts had been dealt a heavy blow. Light race. Xin Wuheng blurted out in alarm. He had never imagined that the person helping Ancient Soul Hall would be the light race. I'll kill you first. God Lord Silverwing looked at the Giant God Hall Grand Elder and charged forward. But at this moment, a powerful spatial ripple appeared not far from the Grand Elder. Bzzz. A small and gloomy passage formed, and then a white light shot out from it. Light race? A completely white elder suddenly appeared in front of God Lord Silverwing, his eyes fixed on him. Twilight Valley. Xin Wuheng breathed a sigh of relief. The moment God Lord Silverwing appeared, he had used the ancient God seal to contact Twilight Valley. He hadn't expected for Twilight Valley to arrive so promptly. The Grand Elder seemed to know about Twilight Valley's matter and did not appear too surprised. But everyone else was dumbstruck. The situation of the battle had changed too quickly. Two Light Clan powerhouses had actually interfered in the battle between the two forces. Light Race Expert. God Lord Silverwing was taken aback. He had not expected that a Light Clan powerhouse would appear while he was intervening in the battle. In the distance, God Lord Stellar Aspect had a pensive look on his face. As expected. There are still survivors of the light race in the light race divine kingdom. I will represent the true light race in exterminating you. Twilight Valley's face chilled. He could sense that this God Lord Silverwing was not a member of the light race at all. He was undoubtedly an experimental subject of the Heaven's Legacy race. The Ish. With a wave of his hands, he unleashed 2 time slashes, causing the world to slow down. Humph. God Lord Silverwing was infuriated. Just when he was about to attack, a true light race expert had popped out. This infuriated him to no end. Silverwing Feather Strike. A pair of silver wings suddenly appeared on God Lord Silverwing's back, appearing like a supreme quality divine artifact. Swoosh swoosh. The wings fluttered, and thin white blades of light shot out. Before the attacks had even clashed, the 2 time energies twisted together, causing the world to twist and slow down. Boom. Bang. Crash. The clash between the 2 light race experts was extremely bizarre. But in the end, Twilight Valley had the upper hand. This was not just because he was a true light race expert, but also because his cultivation at his peak was far above his current level. His understanding and combat experience far surpassed God Lord Silverwing's. So it's a fake light race expert, then the Heaven's Legacy race is probably nearby. Although Twilight Valley had stopped God Lord Silverwing, Zhao Feng sensed another danger. I have to kill God Lord Gloomhaven as quickly as possible. A harsh light flashed through Zhao Feng's eyes. As long as he could kill God Lord Gloomhaven, he could quickly reinforce Twilight Valley or Xin Wuhan and increase his advantage. Bzzz. The power of Zhao Feng's Chaos Origin Tribulation Lightning Sword swelled, and his left eye surged with astonishing ripples of eye intent. Chapter 1443. Chaos Origin Tribulation Lightning Sword. Zhao Feng unleashed an enormous bolt of Chaos Origin Tribulation lightning energy, destroying and devouring everything in its path as it howled toward God Lord Gloomhaven. You want to kill me? God Lord Gloomhaven saw through Zhao Feng's intentions and coldly chuckled. Zhao Feng's attacks were no weaker than his, and his speed was far superior. But this alone was far from enough to kill him. Bzzz. God Lord Gloomhaven's body suddenly liquefied into countless streams of water as he prepared to dodge and reduce the damage. However, before he could complete this, the power of the time law descended upon his body. How could this be? A time law. God Lord Gloomhaven grimaced. Zhao Feng had clearly used peak level 8 time intent before, so why had it become a higher level time law now? As that powerful Chaos Origin Tribulation Lightning Sword energy was about to descend, God Lord Gloomhaven immediately circulated his water law to resist the time law. With the time law weakened, he immediately used the secret art he had yet to complete, transforming his body into countless streams of water that slowly drifted away. Swoosh! The Chaos Origin Tribulation Lightning Sword energy pierced through the drifting streams of water. But God Lord Gloomhaven had already avoided being struck in his vitals, and he had even transformed his body into a soul body. This, together with the special constitution of his ancient soul body, allowed him to minimize the damage. But even so, the power of the primordial lightning tribulation still made him feel uncomfortable. Bzzz. Once his body returned to normal, God Lord Gloomhaven immediately began to flee. But at this moment, he sensed danger. Whoosh! A miniature Chaos Origin Divine Sword flew through the air and pierced through his head. As it turned out, Zhao Feng had long ago planned to use the Chaos Origin Tribulation Lightning Sword to force God Lord Gloomhaven to use a special defensive art. Once God Lord Gloomhaven recovered, he would immediately use his Eye Bloodline technique to catch him off guard. Hiss. A pained expression appeared on God Lord Gloomhaven's face. He felt like his soul was being pierced by countless swords, excruciating pain. In this life and death crisis, he quickly came to his senses. Whoosh! Whoosh! He waved his palms, unleashing a black mist of energy. At the same time, God Lord Gloomhaven transformed into a pitch-black blur and fled. Chaotic Heaven Void Ring. Zhao Feng used a defensive secret skill, quickly forming a dark silver halo around his body. Zhao Feng activated the defenses of the spacetime robe and charged into the black mist. The dual defenses of the Chaos Heaven Void Ring and the spacetime robe allowed Zhao Feng to safely pass through. Moreover, the Chaos Heaven Void Ring absorbed the energy within and became even more solid. Mixed Origin Transformation. After absorbing the external energy, the Chaos Heaven Void Ring transformed into Chaos Origin Divine Power and poured into the Chaos Origin Lightning Tribulation Sword in Zhao Feng's hand. At this moment, the might of his Mixed Origin Lightning Tribulation Sword rose again. Xiao! Zhao Feng circulated his time law as he pursued God Lord Gloomhaven. No. What kind of technique is this kid cultivating? His divine power is so powerful and special. At this moment, God Lord Gloomhaven was truly rather afraid. Great! Down below, the upper echelon members of Giant God Hall were pleasantly surprised to see God Lord Gloomhaven being chased around by Zhao Feng. Some of these upper echelon members who had previously looked down on Zhao Feng even blushed. On the other side of the God Lord battlefield, Twilight Valley and God Lord Silverwing were fiercely clashing. This kid's strength has reached this level. Twilight Valley glanced into the distance, a hint of shock on his face. Swoosh swoosh. Light filled the sky as feather blades and sabers intersected, causing space to twist. Time slash. Twilight Valley slashed his palm through the air, his powerful time energy instantly forming a massive white saber. The-ish. This time energy blade pierced through the world and descended upon God Lord Silverwing. What powerful time energy! God Lord Silverwing was alarmed. He was forced to admit that Twilight Valley's mastery of time energy far surpassed his own. Silverwing Shield. God Lord Silverwing circulated his time energy and activated the divine weapon on his back. The massive wings suddenly folded up, perfectly connecting with each other to form a circular shield that protected God Lord Silverwing. Boom! Bang! As the time slash descended, the enormous force caused the wing shield to tremble violently and push it back several kilometers. Damn! Why isn't God Lord Stellar Aspect doing anything? God Lord Silverwing was depressed. God Lord Stellar Aspect was a second heaven God Lord. Even if he was not skilled in combat, he could still reverse the situation. On the other end, Xian Wuheng was still passively defending against the ancient Soul Hall Master, and it seemed like he was on the verge of losing. This time, I'll kill you once and for all. The ancient Soul Hall Master's eyes focused. But at this moment, he suddenly felt a bone-gnawing pain in his waist, accompanied by a burning sensation. How could my hidden injury be acting up at a time like this? The ancient Soul Hall Master's body trembled in disbelief. 5 million years ago, he had fought with a second heaven God Lord to a standstill. But after that battle, the waist of his soul body had been severely injured and completely corroded by fire poison. Although he had long ago healed this injury, it had not been completely healed, leaving behind a hidden injury. But this hidden injury had not acted up for millions of years. Why had it suddenly flared up now? Could it be the effect of the scorching underworld? The ancient Soul Hall Master was confused. Just a while ago, the scorching underworld had experienced the infamous scorching calamity. No, it's not just that. The ancient Soul Hall Master's eyes were extremely gloomy. Although it seemed like there was a reason for his hidden injury acting up, as a second heaven god lord, he had a strange premonition that it was not so simple. At this moment, the ancient Soul Hall Master was thinking about how he had arrived half a month late. Have I been targeted by a Destiny Dao expert? The ancient Soul Hall Master couldn't help but think this. Destiny Dao experts could kill invisibly, using the Dao of Destiny to move all things and influence all things. The ancient Soul Hall Master, he. Xin Wuheng immediately realized that something was wrong with the ancient Soul Hall Master. In the following clashes, he realized that the ancient Soul Hall Master's power had weakened, and his mind was elsewhere. Gradually, Xin Wuheng sensed that the ancient Soul Hall Master's hidden injury was acting up, affecting his fighting strength. At this moment, the pressure on Xin Wuheng greatly decreased. If the ancient Soul Hall Master's hidden injury continued to act up, it would only worsen. Thus, as long as Xin Wuheng could delay the battle, he might have a chance of winning. In the distant scorching underworld, God Lord Stellar Aspect had an extremely nasty grimace on his face. Zhao Feng was suppressing the Gloomhaven God Lord and was about to push him into desperate straits. And God Lord Silverwing was weaker than Twilight Valley, so his defeat was only a matter of time. But he had never expected for the ancient Soul Hall Master's hidden injury to act up. It seems like I have to go. God Lord Stellar Aspect's eyes dimmed. Although he was apprehensive about that mysterious Destiny Dao energy, he still had to go. He formed a spell with his hands, causing glowing tadpole-like characters to float out and fuse into the world. In the distance, God Lord Silverwing and Twilight Valley suddenly sensed something. Okay. God Lord Silverwing rejoiced and immediately retreated. Hisses. Countless golden runes suddenly appeared between the heavens and earth, forming an illusory formation in an instant. This is, a Heaven's Legacy Array. Twilight Valley grimaced and swiftly retreated. But it was too late. The Golden Heaven's Legacy Array in the air suddenly unleashed several golden pillars of light that covered the entire interior of the array. Swoosh swoosh. Although Twilight Valley was extremely fast, the array seemed to have a powerful restriction that suppressed his time law. Kaplush. Two of the golden pillars of light pierced through Twilight Valley's chest and right shoulder. The parts of Twilight Valley's body pierced through by the golden pillars of light began to turn from flowing white light to solid. Not good. My light race bloodline has been suppressed. Twilight Valley was stunned beyond belief. The sudden appearance of the Heaven's Legacy Array did no harm, but once struck, it would suppress the bloodline energy in one's body. Swish. The Heaven's Legacy Race Array gradually vanished. But the majority of Twilight Valley's light race bloodline had also been suppressed. Die. God Lord Silverwing heartily laughed as he once more approached Twilight Valley. With his light race bloodline suppressed, Twilight Valley's strength in all aspects plunged. Silverwing Feather Strike. The supreme quality divine artifact wings on God Lord Silverwing's back flapped, firing off countless illusory feathers. Boom. Bang. Crash. Twilight Valley used all his defensive techniques to barely block. In a flash, Twilight Valley was on the back foot, crushed by God Lord Silverwing. Everyone else on the battlefield was rather surprised. What's going on here? The first elder who was in the midst of battle was taken aback. Twilight Valley originally had the absolute advantage, but the sudden appearance of an array had changed the situation. There's another expert nearby. Xin Wuheng's gaze dimmed. But it seemed like this expert was only forced to intervene because the situation was too dire and had no intention of participating in the battle or showing himself. There was no need to think about it, it was definitely the Heaven's Legacy race. At this moment, Twilight Valley was heavily injured by God Lord Silverwing. Run! Twilight Valley had no time to worry about such things. If he continued to stay here, he would probably lose his life. Twilight Valley's entire body flashed with a mysterious white light, and then he transformed into a streak of mysterious light that shot off into the distance. Don't give chase. A soul voice resounded in God Lord Silverwing's mind. If you give chase, Ancient Soul Hall might lose. Besides, it's just a light race. There's no need to care too much about it. Go and deal with Zhao Feng and capture him alive. God Lord Stellar Aspect ordered. Previously, when God Lord Stellar Aspect was calculating the battle situation, the most difficult target to calculate was Zhao Feng, and the results of his calculations were extremely vague. Moreover, Zhao Feng was only a half-step God Lord, yet he was still able to heavily injure God Lord Gloomhaven. This made God Lord Stellar Aspect even more interested in him. Moreover, he had heard that Zhao Feng had a soul pet cat. Although the little thieving cat had yet to appear, God Lord Stellar Aspect seemed to have guessed something. Okay. God Lord Silverwing turned around and began to fly back. At this moment, Zhao Feng had forced God Lord Gloomhaven into desperate straits and was about to kill him. But suddenly, he sensed a powerful energy approaching. Not good. Two God Lords. Zhao Feng's expression turned grave. And this God Lord Silverwing was a God Lord with the light race bloodline. Zhao Feng, watch out. Xin Wuhan couldn't help but call out. Your Excellency. The many ancient beasts down below were also extremely worried. It was already a miracle for a half-step God Lord to defeat a top-class God Lord, but what about two God Lords? In the face of immense danger and pressure, Zhao Feng was unprecedentedly calm. But at this moment, he felt a swelling pain in his left eye. Within the God Eye dimension, the dreamy silver ball fiercely trembled. The image of the eye on the silver ball was completely dyed in dreamy colors, leaving only one point. Chapter 1444. At this moment, God Lord Silverwing had suddenly intervened in Zhao Feng's battle. He had the light race bloodline and was much stronger than the Grand Elder of Giant God Hall. It was already a miracle for a half-step God Lord to defeat a top-class God Lord, but what about two God Lords? At this moment, all the members of Giant God Hall began to worry for Zhao Feng. But they could not help Zhao Feng. Members below the God Lord level did not dare to participate in a God Lord battle. And the Grand Elder and Xin Wuhan had powerful enemies to deal with and could not free themselves. Junior, you can only blame yourself for being too brash. God Lord Silverwing faintly chuckled as he approached Zhao Feng. Swoosh! The silver wings on his back flapped, unleashing countless abnormally thin feather blades at Zhao Feng. At this moment, the energy of a time law descended on Zhao Feng, causing his thoughts and movements to become extremely slow. Good. Kill him. The disheveled God Lord Gloomhaven's eyes glowed with joy. He had been pushed into desperate straits by Zhao Feng, so he naturally hated Zhao Feng to the bone. Those countless thin feather blades were about to pierce through Zhao Feng's body. Kaboom! At this moment, a vast time law energy erupted from Zhao Feng's body. Immediately, the restrictions of the laws of time around him disappeared without a trace. The power of the layers of thin feather blades was also greatly weakened. Rumble. Hiss. The Chaos Origin Tribulation Lightning Sword destroyed all the thin feather blades. Such a powerful time law. God Lord Silverwing was stunned. Although he knew that Zhao Feng had a time law, the time law Zhao Feng was displaying was an entire level higher than before. How could this be? Did he not use his full strength just now? God Lord Gloomhaven felt like he had been struck by a lightning bolt. I'll kill you first. After dispelling God Lord Silverwing's attack, Zhao Feng flew toward God Lord Gloomhaven. Although he had borrowed the laws of the ancestral artifact fragment, he had only used a small portion of it. At this moment, Zhao Feng was using the time law energy of the ancestral artifact fragment as much as he could. Otherwise, he would have found it very difficult to resist God Lord Silverwing's time law. No, God Lord Gloomhaven called out in fear as he sensed the binding of the time law. Boom! God Lord Gloomhaven unleashed several more palms of pitch-black light, all of them hurtling toward Zhao Feng. However, Zhao Feng had the Chaotic Origin Lightning Tribulation Sword in his hand and the Chaotic Heaven Void Ring around him, so he was not injured at all. Junior, no one can kill anyone in front of me. God Lord Silverwing's cold voice came from behind him. Zhao Feng was fast, but God Lord Silverwing was even faster. He was also skilled in the time law, and the supreme quality divine artifact on his back also had the ability to accelerate. This God Lord Silverwing is truly hard to deal with. Zhao Feng's eyes darkened. The top 10 primeval bloodlines definitely weren't just for show. Kill! God Lord Silverwing grunted. The right wing on his back immediately surged with enormous energy as he unleashed a massive wave of featherlight. Swoosh! The huge featherlight pierced through the air at an extremely fast speed. Cling-clang! Zhao Feng swung his Chaos Origin Tribulation Lightning Sword and used the Chaos Heaven Void Ring to block. God Lord Silverwing far surpassed God Lord Gloomhaven in every aspect. With Zhao Feng's current strength, dealing with him was rather difficult. But against two God Lords, if he didn't kill one of them first, he might die here. Moreover, there was still a God Lord of the Heavens legacy race hiding in the shadows. I'll deal with this kid. You just need to disturb him from a distance. God Lord Silverwing messaged God Lord Gloomhaven. His goal was to capture Zhao Feng alive, and capturing him alive was much more difficult than killing him. God Lord Silverwing would not believe himself infallible. He would use everything he could to quickly complete his mission. Okay. God Lord Gloomhaven swiftly retreated behind God Lord Silverwing. You don't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. Using a time law in front of the light race is nothing more than showing off before an expert. God Lord Silverwing sneered, his body exuding time law energy that caused the world around him to slow down. That-ish. He transformed into a streak of light and appeared in front of Zhao Feng. Countless feather blades formed around God Lord Silverwing, pouring down like a torrent of rain. Boom! Behind him, God Lord Gloomhaven and his soul beast unleashed a tornado of black water that shot forward. Not even the Chaos Heaven Void Ring would be able to block the attacks of these two powerful God Lords. At this moment, Zhao Feng recalled the upgraded combat skill of the Chaos Heaven Void Ring, Chaos Heaven Black Hole. This combat skill was extremely powerful in terms of defense, and it also had powerful offensive capabilities. But this combat skill was only barely able to be used by someone at the peak of the 5th level of the Chaos Heaven Void Origin technique. Chaos Heaven Black Hole. Zhao Feng bellowed, Chaos Origin divine power madly surging out of his body. The dark silver halo around his body gradually darkened. Whoosh! The spacetime robe on Zhao Feng's body began to flutter, and layer after layer of spacetime barriers emerged. At the same time, he used as much of the ancestral artifact fragment's power as he could. Buzz! Bzzz! The dark silver halo around him continued to deepen and expand. Once the energy within it reached a certain level, the dark silver halo instantly turned pitch black, and the devouring power around it multiplied. At a glance, it was like a black hole had appeared in the air and was devouring everything around it. Success! With the help of the supreme quality divine artifact, the spacetime robe, and the ancestral artifact fragment, he was able to activate the Chaos Heaven Black Hole. Boom! Bang! Crash! The thin featherlight blades in the sky furiously bombarded the Chaos Heaven Black Hole. But before the featherlight blades could get close to the Chaos Heaven Black Hole, they were distorted by a force field and rapidly weakened. When it got close, a powerful devouring force suddenly appeared. Whoosh! When the thin featherlight blades collided with the Chaos Heaven black hole, they were like drops of water, instantly vanishing. Swoosh! The featherlight blades descended, but in the end, they were all successfully blocked by the Chaos Heaven black hole. So strong! Zhao Feng was pleasantly surprised. At the same time, God Lord Gloomhaven's attack arrived. Kill! Without another word, Zhao Feng charged forward. Boom! Bang! The two clashed, and the Chaos Heaven black hole pierced through the black water tornado from head to tail. The Chaos Heaven black hole was not just a defensive skill, it also had formidable offensive capabilities. How could this be? What secret art is this? God Lord Gloomhaven was stunned. His powerful attack had been directly broken by Zhao Feng. The power of this secret skill is too strong. God Lord Silverwing was also rather surprised. Moreover, Zhao Feng's secret art was extremely resistant to his time law. Kill! Zhao Feng maintained the Chaos Heaven black hole as he charged at God Lord Gloomhaven. The-ish. God Lord Gloomhaven immediately retreated. Don't even think about it. The wings on God Lord Silverwing's back flapped, unleashing a massive blade of light. Boom! Bang! But when his attack struck the Chaos Heaven black hole, it only took a few moments for its power to weaken and be pulverized by Zhao Feng. This kid's defensive skill is getting stronger and stronger. God Lord Silverwing's eyes dimmed. I couldn't stop it. Panicked, God Lord Gloomhaven retreated once more. Black hole devour. The Chaos Heaven black hole around Zhao Feng suddenly unleashed a supreme suction force that pulled in everything in the world. Not good. If he continues to devour like this, the defensive skill will only get stronger. God Lord Silverwing grimaced as he unleashed his time law energy to suppress the devouring power of the Chaos Heaven void ring. Die! A white mirror fragment suddenly appeared in Zhao Feng's hand. It was the ancestral artifact fragment. But because he was inside the Chaos Heaven black hole, no one could see it clearly. After slashing down, Zhao Feng immediately put it away. Kaboom! This slash obliterated the time law energy unleashed by God Lord Silverwing and dealt a significant blow to him. So powerful, this time energy. God Lord Silverwing's body trembled in shock. On the other side, God Lord Gloomhaven was not only being pulled by the Chaos Heaven black hole, but he was also caught up in the time energy and slowed down. Die! A Chaos Origin Tribulation lightning sword suddenly extended out of the Chaos Heaven black hole. Swish! The lightning sword cut through God Lord Gloomhaven's body in two, the wound scorched black and difficult to heal. Earth-shaking nova. Zhao Feng extracted the surrounding Chaos Origin divine power and unleashed a dark silver and turbid star. Boom! Bang! The dark star landed on God Lord Gloomhaven's body and exploded, unleashing a torrent of energy that destroyed all. At the same time, a Chaos Origin Tribulation lightning sword energy shot into the chaotic storm. Whoosh! Once the chaotic energy vanished, God Lord Gloomhaven was blasted into nothingness. God Lord Gloomhaven had died. Everyone present could clearly sense the aura of a God Lord soul falling. This God Lord Silverwing was frozen to the spot. He had never imagined that in his momentary delay, God Lord Gloomhaven would be killed by Zhao Feng. How could this be? God Lord Gloomhaven is dead. The ancient Soul Hall Master and God Lord Ghost Centipede were dumbstruck, their faces filled with disbelief. Wasn't God Lord Gloomhaven working together with God Lord Silverwing to deal with Zhao Feng? How could he have died? Meanwhile, Giant God Hall, apart from being deeply shocked, all the members were also cheering in pleasant surprise. Unbelievable. He actually killed God Lord Gloomhaven. The Grand Elder still found it hard to believe. This was the first God Lord to die since the start of the war. And in a situation where Zhao Feng was fighting 1 against 2, he had killed God Lord Gloomhaven. In the distance, God Lord Stellar Aspect's eyes were dazed. This kid might be related to Heng Er's death. God Lord Stellar Aspect suddenly said in shock. For Zhao Feng to be able to kill God Lord Gloomhaven in these circumstances was truly absurd. And according to the intelligence reports, Zhao Feng had followed Xian Wuheng into the light race's treasury. In addition, he found it difficult to deduce how Yu Heng had died, and he also found it difficult to deduce what had happened to Zhao Feng. This forced God Lord Stellar Aspect to suspect that Yu Heng's death was related to Zhao Feng. Let this old man personally capture you. God Lord Stellar Aspect's eyes flashed. Finding out how Yu Heng died was more important than the war between Giant God Hall and Ancient Soul Hall. This time, even if the Chixing Zone's sacred land noticed him, he still had to capture Zhao Feng and get to the bottom of everything. Whoosh! God Lord Stellar Aspect immediately flew out, his hands forming a spell. Lines of Heaven's legacy race characters writhed through the air and seeped into the world. At this moment, the two races fighting in the distance sensed this powerful energy. Second Heaven God Lord. The Grand Elder gasped, his body trembling. It was this person who used the Heaven's legacy array to attack Twilight Valley. Xian Wuheng's eyes dimmed, his mind somewhat at a loss. It was obvious that this person was a Second Heaven God Lord, and one of the Heaven's legacy race. Chapter 1445. At this moment, all the members on the battlefield sensed this powerful energy. It was this person who used the Heaven's legacy array to attack Twilight Valley. Xian Wuheng's eyes dimmed, his mind somewhat at a loss. It was obvious that this person was a Second Heaven God Lord, and one of the Heaven's legacy race. There's another God Lord. All the upper echelon members of Giant God Hall felt extremely helpless. Ancient Soul Hall already had one more God Lord than them, and now, God Lord Silverwing had suddenly appeared, and now, an even stronger God Lord had appeared. You're finally willing to take action. God Lord Silverwing's expression relaxed as he faintly smiled. Although God Lord Stellar Aspect was not skilled in combat as a member of the Heaven's legacy race, he was still a Second Heaven God Lord. There was an enormous gap between each Heaven of God Lord. A First Heaven God Lord had an initial mastery of a law while a Second Heaven had an initial mastery of a law. The power of an initial mastery of a law could greatly suppress an initial mastery of a law. Xian Wuheng, all of you are finished. The Ancient Soul Hall Master heartily laughed. Now that God Lord Stellar Aspect of the Heaven's legacy race was willing to take action, there was no question that everything was over. It's actually a Second Heaven. Zhao Feng also felt somewhat powerless, and his left eye began to thump even more violently. At this moment, buzz. Bzzz. Countless golden runes suddenly appeared around Zhao Feng, instantly forming an illusory array. Not good, the target is me. Zhao Feng grimaced. The-ish. Without another word, he circulated his space intent and time law and prepared to flee. Even Twilight Valley had been completely suppressed by this God Lord's array techniques. Boom. Bang. Zhao Feng had just reached the edge of the array when he felt like he had run into a steel wall and was sent flying back. At the same time, an enormous pressure descended. Within the golden array, Zhao Feng's strength plummeted. Zhao Feng, obediently come with me. God Lord Stellar Aspect slowly stepped forward, his profound eyes staring at Zhao Feng as if trying to pry into all of Zhao Feng's secrets. Impossible. Zhao Feng's face was filled with determination. If he left with the Heaven's legacy race, he would not have a good end. What can you do even if you don't? God Lord Silverwing jeered. What could a mere half-step God Lord do against a Second Heaven God Lord? I have to escape. Zhao Feng's eyes were filled with determination. Buzz. He flipped his palm over, and a fragment that flickered with a white crystal light appeared on it. In an instant, a powerful power of the laws of time spread out, causing the entire golden formation to faintly flicker. In the face of such a crisis, Zhao Feng no longer held back. This is an ancestral artifact fragment. God Lord Silverwing's eyes were wide open, his mouth agape in shock. At this moment, he finally understood why the half-step God Lord Zhao Feng had the power of a time law. So he had an ancestral artifact fragment. An ancestral artifact fragment. The two God Lords of Ancient Soul Hall were stunned. Even the Ancient Soul Hall Master was still using a supreme quality divine artifact. If he had the ancestral artifact fragment, he would have been able to instantly kill Xi and Wuheng and dominate the second heaven of the God Lord realm. Oh. God Lord Stellar Aspect was also rather surprised, but then he faintly smiled. Zhao Feng was a turtle in a jar, waiting to be slaughtered. When the time came, everything on Zhao Feng would be his. Break. Zhao Feng activated the ancestral artifact fragment with all his strength and slashed down. A huge white blade appeared out of thin air and instantly flew out. Boom. Hiss. The massive white blade crashed against the golden formation, causing it to tremble. Within the formation, Zhao Feng felt the pressure lessen, allowing him to use even more power. One more time. I can definitely break the formation. Zhao Feng once more circulated the energy in his body and waved the ancestral artifact fragment. What's the point in doing all this? God Lord Stellar Aspect extended a hand and clenched. In a flash, a golden hand appeared above the golden formation and grabbed at Zhao Feng. Oh no! Zhao Feng wanted to dodge, but he sensed that he could not escape. Boom! The golden hand grabbed Zhao Feng, and then an even more powerful restraining energy descended. In a flash, Zhao Feng sensed that the power he could use was constantly dropping. If this continues, I'll be completely finished. Zhao Feng was extremely worried, his left eye throbbing. Chaos Heaven Black Hole. He once more gathered all his energy and used a powerful combat skill, the Chaos Heaven Black Hole. Kaboom! A layer of gloomy divine power slowly emerged on the surface of Zhao Feng's body, exuding a powerful twisting and devouring energy. But the restraint of the golden hand prevented the Chaos Heaven Black Hole from fully forming. Moreover, the restraining energy was getting stronger and stronger, causing the Chaos Heaven Black Hole to lose its original power. Zhao Feng couldn't even maintain the Chaos Heaven Black Hole. Whoosh! The Chaos Heaven Black Hole vanished. At this moment, Zhao Feng could only use the strength of a rank 7 ancient god. In the eyes of a second heaven god lord, a rank 7 ancient god wasn't even an ant. No, is it going to end like this? Zhao Feng inwardly roared in unwillingness. Thump thump. Thump thump. Within the god-eye dimension, the dreamy silver ball seemed to sense Zhao Feng's rage and began to tremble even more intensely, unleashing vast amounts of origin energy. The origin energy of the god's spiritual eye isn't being restrained. Zhao Feng seemed to have grabbed onto a rope in the despair of falling into the abyss. God Lord Stellar Aspect had restrained his divine power, and soul energy, but the origin energy of the god's spiritual eye was not affected in the slightest. On the contrary, the danger had caused the dreamy silver ball to tremble even more intensely, as if some supreme energy was about to charge out of it. It's up to you. Zhao Feng half closed his eyes and focused all his attention on the god's spiritual eye, attempting to guide the energy within the dreamy silver ball. God Lord Stellar Aspect faintly smiled when he saw that Zhao Feng had given up on resisting. He was confident that Zhao Feng was related to Yu Heng's death, and not only had he captured Zhao Feng, Ancient Soul Hall had also smoothly defeated Giant God Hall. Buzz. Bzzz. The golden hand holding onto Zhao Feng suddenly melted, forming a barrier of runes that enveloped Zhao Feng's body. It's over. Trapped by the secret array art, Zhao Feng could not escape. Once he was brought back, all his secrets would naturally become clear. Zhao Feng. Xin Wuhan, who was in the middle of fighting with the ancient Soul Hall Master, called out, preparing to go and save him. Don't even think about it. The ancient Soul Hall Master naturally would not let Xin Wuhan go, so he did his best to delay him. Down below, Nan Gongsheng and Kuan Yun were also burning with anxiety, but there was nothing they could do. Your Excellency. The blood-flame Qilin race and the other ancient beasts were all furious. But what could they do against a second heaven god lord? But at this moment, Zhao Feng suddenly opened his left eye. At that instant, his eyes emitted a dreamy glow that attracted the attention of everyone on the battlefield. How could it be, this energy? God Lord's stellar aspect was dumbfounded. Logically speaking, Zhao Feng's strength should have been restricted by him and should not have been able to be used. But the energy exuded by Zhao Feng's left eye made God Lord's stellar aspect's heart tremble and unease. God Eye Illusory Oblivion. At a time like this, perhaps only the God Eye Illusory Oblivion could resolve this problem. Buzz. Bzzz. The dreamy silver ball trembled even more intensely under the influence of Zhao Feng's powerful will, and vast amounts of origin energy surged out. Zhao Feng's left eye also surged with astonishing ripples of eye intent. Absorb. God Lord's stellar aspect extended a hand and called out. The distant golden array vanished, leaving behind Zhao Feng, who was trapped in the golden barrier, slowly drifting toward God Lord stellar aspect. Suddenly, the golden runic barrier stopped in midair for a moment. Boom! An enormous taboo source energy suddenly broke through the dreamy silver ball and burst forth. Zhao Feng's left eye exuded an even more dazzling dreamy mist, accompanied by an ancient energy that reigned over the world. At this moment, it wasn't just the golden barrier that was trembling, the entire world was trembling. Buzz. Bzzz. The dreamy light grew stronger and stronger, piercing through all and dyeing everything with dreamy and dazzling colors. Boom! Boundless dreamy light erupted from Zhao Feng's left eye. At this moment, the image of the eye on the dreamy silver ball was dyed in dreamy colors. A few moments later, the world in front of Zhao Feng was dyed into a dreamy paradise. Bzzz. Boom! The entire world trembled. The bodies and souls of all living beings in a radius of millions of li also instinctively trembled. At this moment, the world seemed to stop. Only Zhao Feng could move. He was the ruler of this world. Whoosh! The golden barrier around Zhao Feng's body shattered like a bubble. Plush! In the distance, God Lord Stellar Aspect vomited a mouthful of blood and staggered backward. How could this be? God Lord Stellar Aspect's face was ghastly pale, a look of shock on his face for the first time. This mysterious energy that had suddenly erupted caused the entire world to tremble in fear, and he also suffered a powerful backlash that heavily injured his divine body and soul. What's going on? Zhao Feng's left eye was swollen and painful, and his mind was somewhat muddled. He had not even used his God Eye Illusory Oblivion. He barely managed to look around, and he realized that everything had become a dreamy scene. God Lord Silverwing. Zhao Feng could see that God Lord Silverwing was an illusory, multicolored body that was slowly trembling in front of him. He subconsciously reached out to grab God Lord Silverwing. An invisible energy seemed to gather around God Lord Silverwing. No. God Lord Silverwing saw Zhao Feng extend his hand, and for some reason, his heart began to tremble as he sensed an unprecedented danger. Suddenly, God Lord Silverwing was like a dandelion blown away by the wind, turning into a dreamy mist that vanished. Was this an illusion? Zhao Feng's expression froze. How could God Lord Silverwing just vanish like this? His mind was definitely muddled and he was hallucinating. Hiss. Everyone in the outside world clearly saw this sight. A light race God Lord had vanished into thin air. How? What's going on here? God Lord Ghost Centipede's face was stricken with fear. A powerful God Lord had vanished for no reason at all. How could this be? Unless it was a dream, it was impossible for such a strange thing to happen. This is impossible. The ancient Soul Hall Master was also stunned. Even as a second heaven God Lord, he found it impossible to explain what had just happened. Not even the person involved, God Lord Silverwing, could understand what had just happened. This energy. God Eye. How? God Lord's stellar aspect paled in panic as he hastily retreated. Chapter 1446. In the depths of a lush and verdant forest, buzz. Bzzz. The air above the forest suddenly twisted, and then a figure slowly emerged. This was a white-haired elder, but he exuded an indescribable aura and affinity. At a glance, this person seemed to be floating in the air, drifting with the wind. Suddenly, the gray-haired old man opened his eyes. Bzzz. His eyes were like vortexes, flowing with multicolored light. The moment the elder opened his eyes, the entire forest, the earth, and the sky began to tremble. The old man's temperament had also undergone an earth-shattering change. His figure had become incomparably majestic, and his old hair had instantly become multicolored, dancing in the wind. He was like a peerless ruler who transcended everything. This energy, it's a God Eye, but it's very unfamiliar. The elder softly muttered. As he fell into thought, the entire world became gloomy and oppressive. Everything in the world was being changed by this elder's every move. Could it be, the ninth God Eye? The old man's eyes flashed with a bright light. In a flash, the world changed colors and howled. In this chaotic world, the elder's body had long ago vanished. In the scorching underworld, God Lord Silverwing, who had been fine just a moment ago, had vanished. Not even a second heaven God Lord could explain this sight. This energy. God Eye. How? God Lord's stellar aspect paled in panic as he hastily retreated. As a member of the Heaven's Legacy race, he naturally had a deep understanding of God Eyes. At this moment, the forbidden energy exuded by Zhao Feng's left eye made him feel like he was personally witnessing a God Eye deity. But this God Eye energy was completely different from the 8 great God Eyes. God Eye. Impossible. The ancient Soul Hall Master was stunned. Although he didn't have much understanding of God Eyes, the ancient Soul Hall Master was extremely familiar with the power of the 8 great God Eyes. And the characteristics of Zhao Feng's God Eye did not belong to any of the 8 great God Eyes. Is it really a God Eye? Xin Wuheng took in a deep breath, his eyes somewhat dazed. In fact, he had guessed this a long time ago, but he had never dared to confirm it. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Zhao Feng's body, staring at his left eye, which was releasing a dreamy mist. Directly killing a God Lord? Just how did he do it? Just where did his left eye come from? Below, the people from both sides were amazed. Lord God, congratulations on the complete awakening of your God Eye. The blood-flame Qilins were the first to kneel on the ground, their faces full of worship. They had originally served Zhao Feng precisely because of Zhao Feng's 9th God Eye. And now that Zhao Feng's God Eye had completely awakened, they trusted Zhao Feng even more and were willing to follow him with all their hearts. Lord God, congratulations on the complete awakening of your God Eye. Following that, the other ancient races also knelt down in unison. The words of these ancient races shook the hearts of everyone present. The God Eye. Yes, the 8 great God Eyes of the Fan universe were all crowned gods. But Zhao Feng's God Eye did not belong to the 8 great God Eyes. Could it be, the 9th God Eye? God Lord Stellar Aspect stared at Zhao Feng, his mind unable to calm down. The others also began to think the same thing. The 9th God Eye. The 9th God Eye has awakened. I wonder what kind of power it possesses. God Lord Stellar Aspect was completely unsure. Every God Eye was a god of the fan universe, possessing heaven-defying abilities. But there were no records or information on this ninth God Eye. It was completely unknown. The unknown always made people fear and not dare to act recklessly. Let's retreat for now. This kid has awakened his God Eye and won't be easy to deal with, but he can't escape our palms. God Lord Stellar Aspect immediately made a plan. He had used an array to trap Zhao Feng, but the awakening of his God Eye had inflicted a massive backlash on him. This made God Lord Stellar Aspect fear Zhao Feng's God Eye. He would never risk his life to fight against the awakened ninth God Eye at a time like this. Swish! God Lord Stellar Aspect took out a silver-gray metal plate. He sat on it and immediately activated an array around the plate, protecting God Lord Stellar Aspect within it. The-ish. God Lord Stellar Aspect rode a special flying tool and instantly vanished. On the battlefield, the only person on Giant God Hall's side who could stop God Lord Stellar Aspect was Zhao Feng, but he seemed to be in a daze. Not good. Even God Lord Stellar Aspect has fled. The ancient Soul Hall Master grimaced. God Lord Gloomhaven and God Lord Silverwing had both been killed by Zhao Feng. God Lord Stellar Aspect had also fled. On ancient Soul Hall's side, only he and God Lord Ghost Centipede were left. Giant God Hall had Xin Wuhan, the Grand Elder, and that taboo existence that no one dared to touch, Zhao Feng. Does he really have the ninth God Eye? The ancient Soul Hall Master muttered in shock. Originally, ancient Soul Hall was certain to win this battle. But Zhao Feng alone had changed everything. The ninth God Eye, the ancient desolate realm of gods, will have another god. God Lord Ghost Centipede sighed in shock. Counterattack. Xin Wuhan immediately called out. Deal a heavy blow to ancient Soul Hall. The Grand Elder finally realized what was going on. Now that God Lord Stellar Aspect had left, ancient Soul Hall's momentum was over. This was the perfect time for their counterattack. Kill. Down below, all the members of Giant God Hall roared and charged forward. Retreat. The ancient Soul Hall Master ordered everyone to retreat. In the air, no one dared to approach Zhao Feng for 10,000 li. My eye, what's wrong with it? At this moment, Zhao Feng's left eye was still throbbing with pain. Within the God Eye dimension, the dreamy silver ball was fiercely trembling, the image of the eye on its surface flashing with an even more dazzling dreamy luster. The entire dreamy silver ball was also silently transforming, becoming even brighter and more translucent. Buzz. Bzzz. The colors of the world around Zhao Feng were extremely intense, and as Zhao Feng's left eye changed, it began to twist and distort. Perhaps if I release my origin energy like last time, it'll be a little better. Zhao Feng struggled as he spoke. Back in the Light Race Divine Kingdom, the ancient race bloodline had stimulated the evolution of the god's spiritual eye. At the time, his mind was in chaos and dizziness, and he couldn't do anything. Only when he used the God Eye Illusory Oblivion and released his origin energy did everything return to normal. Whoosh! Zhao Feng raised his head and looked at Ancient Soul Hall. Ancient Soul Hall had already retreated, with its two god lords in the rear. Where do you think you're going? Zhao Feng bellowed. Boom! A vast amount of forbidden origin energy shot out of his left eye and into Ancient Soul Hall. At this moment, Zhao Feng's left eye was in extreme pain, but he did not use any eye bloodline technique. His body swayed as he waved his hand. Ancient Soul Hall's God Lord Ghost Centipede was instantly frozen by this mysterious energy. Whoosh! A moment later, he was like a bubble that had been touched, and he vanished into the world. The nearby Ancient Soul Hall Master's body trembled at this sight, and his heart almost jumped out of his chest. Before, he wouldn't have believed that God Lord Silverwing had been erased by Zhao Feng. But this time, he completely believed it. How could this be? Even a god eye can't do this. The ancient Soul Hall master was so frightened that his words became incoherent. As for the other ancient Soul Hall members, they were scared out of their wits. Another God Lord had vanished for no apparent reason. Heavens! What's going on here? The ancient Soul Hall members panicked and began to flee in all directions. This sight didn't just cause a huge stir on ancient Soul Hall's side. All the members of Giant God Hall were also stunned. Just what's going on here? Does he really have the ninth God Eye? Ancient God Giant Devil was also stunned. At this moment, Zhao Feng was in a daze. If he were to accidentally erase them, what would they do? It seems a little better. In the air, Zhao Feng somewhat calmed down. At this moment, the swelling pain in his left eye was slowly disappearing. But in its place was a sense of weariness and exhaustion. Just now, did I kill God Lord Ghost Centipede? Zhao Feng muttered. Everything in front of him was filled with dazzling colors. This sort of scene would only appear in a dream. The first time God Lord Silverwing disappeared, Zhao Feng thought that he was dreaming. But later on, God Lord Ghost Centipede also vanished, making Zhao Feng rather suspicious. Slowly, the swelling pain in his left eye disappeared, and the dazzling world before him became a little more normal. Everything in front of him was happening in reality. God Lord Ghost Centipede really had vanished. This familiar energy. Zhao Feng suddenly sensed an extremely familiar energy, and he couldn't help but focus with his left eye. His gaze pierced through the poisonous fog, and at the edge of the scorching underworld, he discovered a white figure. She was dressed in white, and she had a tranquil face. Her serene and deep white eyes seemed to be able to see through all things in the world. She calmly stood where she was, exuding a mysterious and illusory aura. Whoosh! The white-clothed woman suddenly turned around and vanished. No, she's... Zhao Feng subconsciously stretched out a hand, wanting to call out to this person. This was because that face was far too similar to a certain person in Zhao Feng's memories. But this was impossible. How could that white-clothed woman be the person in his memories? No, I'm so tired. Zhao Feng wanted to give chase, but he realized that he could not open his left eye. A deep weariness engulfed him, leaving him powerless. In the distance, the battle continued. Ancient Soul Hall had suffered a major defeat. Of the Ancient Soul Hall godlords, only the second Heaven Hall Master was left, and he had been pursued by Xian Wuheng and the Grand Elder for a long time. As for the other members of Ancient Soul Hall, they had long ago scattered in disarray. Brother Xian, I still have matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Zhao Feng took out a giant God Hall message token. The-ish. Zhao Feng's body swayed as he left the scene. The strange behavior of his left eye had probably caused quite a ruckus. Perhaps it had even alarmed the true powerhouses of the God realm. But he was currently extremely tired, so it was best to get as far away from this place as possible. After flying for a day, a boundless sea appeared in front of him. Occasionally, a few black figures could be seen in this sea, all of them exuding savage auras. Thump! Zhao Feng plunged into this sea. The terrifying aura of the God Eye caused all the nearby Yao gods and ancient beasts to retreat in fear from their souls. Meanwhile, Zhao Feng's body slowly sank, drifting along with the waves. Gradually, Zhao Feng's mind was swept away by exhaustion, and he fell into a deep sleep. That figure, was it really Lu Qinxin? The half-asleep Zhao Feng muttered. Yes, the white-clothed woman he saw after his God Eye awakened was truly similar to Lu Qinxin, except for her eyes. Meow. The little thieving cat leaped out of the interspatial dimension and onto Zhao Feng's body, its black gem-like eyes occasionally flashing with a silver luster. Who knew how many days had passed or where he had drifted off to? The little thieving cat yawned and prepared to enter the interspatial dimension to sleep. But after yawning, it discovered that Zhao Feng was nowhere to be seen. The little thieving cat froze in place, not knowing what to do. Chapter 1447. The scorching underworld. After the battle between the two five-star factions, the environment here had become even nastier, and the danger level had risen once more. On this day, swish! A dignified and solemn elder suddenly appeared in the sky above the scorching underworld, his five-colored hair blowing in the wind. The moment the elder appeared, all the poisonous mist of the scorching underworld madly surged as if worshipping him. Not a single person. The elder's divine sense covered the entire scorching underworld, but he found nothing. Bzzz. Suddenly, an incomparably powerful divine sense burst forth from the old man's body and spread out in all directions. At this moment, the entire world was covered by the elder's divine sense, creating all sorts of strange phenomena. My divine sense has covered more than half of the Chixing zone, but I still haven't found the ninth god eye. The elder sighed, his body gradually turning transparent as if he had become one with nature. Another 10 days passed, a pitch-black shadow suddenly descended upon this place. His eyes exuded an energy of death that suppressed all the poisonous mist of the scorching underworld. Did I come too late? God Lord Heavenly Solitude's eyes dimmed. He had rushed over the moment he learned that Zhao Feng had appeared, but he was still too late. Humph, let's see where you can hide. God Lord Heavenly Solitude coldly snorted as he swiftly retreated to continue his search for Zhao Feng. At the same time that God Lord Heavenly Solitude found the scorching underworld, the news of the battle between the two five-star factions spread throughout the Chixing zone. Ancient Soul Hall suffered a major defeat, with only the Ancient Soul Hall Master of the four God Lords fleeing with injuries. The other members of Ancient Soul Hall also scattered. Giant God Hall, on the other hand, smoothly occupied the territory of Ancient Soul Hall. The Giant God race finally saw the light of day and regained control of its former faction. The majority of the factions did not resist and immediately submitted. At the same time, news of the ninth god eye began to spread. However, in the eyes of ordinary people, this was all nonsense. The ninth god eye was an ethereal existence. Who would believe it unless they personally saw it or had firm evidence? But there were still quite a few great powers who came to the Chixing zone in search of the short-lived ninth god eye. The sleeping Zhao Feng had a dream. In the dream, he returned to the continent zone. Gradually, he arrived at the Nanlin Sea, the floating dream sacred land, the Sky Zither region. Is that figure really Lu Qinqin? Zhao Feng arrived in the Sky Zither region. The entire world was like a dreamy scene. The Sky Sacred Qin Palace not far away was also magnificent. Suddenly, Zhao Feng quivered. Everything in front of him became chaotic and distorted before disappearing. He's awake. I wonder how long he has been asleep. Zhao Feng opened his eyes. If he remembered correctly, the God Eye awakening had caused him to fall into a deep slumber. And now, he had woken up. The first thing Zhao Feng did was to look around. Something is not right. Zhao Feng was taken aback. The heavens and the earth were covered in a dusky expanse of mist, the vital energy was extremely thin, and space was extremely fragile. Where is this? Zhao Feng scanned his surroundings with his left eye. In the distance was an island zone bursting with life. At a glance, this island zone was shaped like a zither, and one could faintly make out the beautiful mountains and rivers within. This island gave Zhao Feng a peaceful and intimate feeling. This is, the Sky Zither region. Zhao Feng's soul trembled and his expression paled. He had been sleeping in some sea region of the Chixing zone. But now that he had woken up, he had come to the Sky Zither region of the continent zone's Nanlin Sea. A dream. It must be a dream. Zhao Feng closed his eyes and rubbed them. After the God Eye awakened, Zhao Feng truly felt like he was in a daze. He would often see inconceivable scenes as if he were dreaming. But now, He was in the vicinity of the sky zither region. This had to be a dream. Once more, Zhao Feng opened his eyes. But nothing had changed in front of him. He was still in the sky zither region. What's going on? Zhao Feng's mind was somewhat muddled. How had he woken up and appeared in the continent zone? Had someone sent him here while he was sleeping? Although he didn't understand and found it absurd, Zhao Feng wouldn't continue to dwell on this question. If he really did come back, that was fine. After all, he had long since planned to come back when he had the time. Even if this was a dream, that was fine too. He would treat it as real and experience it for himself. He checked his interspatial dimension. The Black Destruction Dragon and his clone were all there, but the little thieving cat was nowhere to be seen. Sky Zither Region, Sky Sacred Qin Palace. Zhao Feng's left eye immediately spotted a certain paradise in the Sky Zither region. This place was filled with pavilions and ancient fragrance, and the faint sound of a zither could be heard. Swish! Zhao Feng's body flashed, and he appeared outside the Sky Sacred Qin Palace. Then, he silently entered the forbidden grounds of the Sky Sacred Qin Palace. This was an abyss shrouded in fog. It was completely empty and seemed rather desolate. Not here. Zhao Feng's eyes twinkled as he murmured. Logically speaking, there should be a Fanluan ancient sound palace in the forbidden ground of the Sky Sacred Qin Palace, and Lu Qinxin should be inside. However, there was nothing here. What if this isn't a dream? Then where did Lu Qinxin and the Fanluan ancient sound palace go? Zhao Feng raised his head, and a question surfaced in his mind. At the same time, a scene appeared in his mind. It was the white-clothed woman he had seen in the scorching underworld. Perhaps everything in front of me is real, and I really did return to the continent zone. A glimmer of light flashed through Zhao Feng's eyes. He was now sure that the white-clothed woman he had seen in the scorching underworld was Lu Qinxin. This explained why the Fanluan ancient sound palace and Lu Qinxin had disappeared from the forbidden ground of the Sky Sacred Qin Palace. Let's return to the Azure Flower continent first. Zhao Feng murmured and prepared to leave. The doubts in his heart had been resolved. At this moment, who is it? Who dares to trespass into the forbidden ground of the Sky Sacred Qin Palace? An angry voice came from behind. Long time no see, Li Shui. Zhao Feng said in a low voice before turning around. A woman stood in the mist not far away. She wore a snow-white dress, and her black hair fell to the ground. She had an elegant and otherworldly aura, as if she was a painting. This woman was the head disciple of the Sky Sacred Qin Palace, Li Shui, whom Zhao Feng had met when he had first arrived at the Sky Sacred Qin Zone. It's you. Li Shui's angry face instantly paled, and she couldn't help but cover her mouth with her hand. That's right, the person who had appeared in front of her was the figure that she couldn't get out of her mind. Whoosh! 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 At this moment, several figures rushed over. Who is it? How dare you sneak into the forbidden ground of the Sky Sacred Qin Palace? The Great Origin Corps and upper echelon members of the Sky Sacred Qin Palace looked at Zhao Feng and called out in unison. However, at this moment, their palace master, Li Shui, suddenly flew forward and arrived before Zhao Feng, staring at him. Is it you? You're here again. Li Shui's elegant and noble face moved closer to Zhao Feng, and her eyes rippled with tears. Palace. Palace Master. What's going on? The upper echelon of the Sky Sacred Qin Palace were all flabbergasted. This was the first time they had seen their palace master so close to an unfamiliar man and in such a daze. Li Shui was the #1 beauty of the Sky Sacred Qin Zone and the palace master of the Sky Sacred Qin Palace. She was a goddess that countless men dreamed of. There were even elites and experts that traveled tens of thousands of miles to this place to express their feelings to Li Shui. Who dares to enter the forbidden ground? A purple-haired male in the upper echelon shouted with jealousy in his eyes. Seeing the goddess of his heart show such an expression to a stranger, it made him feel very uncomfortable. Boom! At the same time, a powerful king aura radiated from his body, causing the thick mist in the abyss to instantly dissipate. Shut up! Li Shui immediately shouted. Heaven and earth trembled, and the king aura also disappeared. Thump! Thump! A trickle of blood leaked out of the purple-haired male's mouth as he retreated. He had a shocked expression and wanted to say something. Right at this moment, a graceful and elegant old lady slowly walked over. Grand Elder! The surrounding upper echelon exclaimed. It's him, Zhao Feng. The noble matron had a calm expression, but when she saw Zhao Feng, her body trembled and she exclaimed in surprise. Old Palace Master. Zhao Feng looked at the previous Palace Master of the Sky Sacred Qin Palace and nodded. The Palace Master had even fought against the Emperor of Death with him. Zhao Feng. Everyone couldn't help but mutter. A few people felt that this name was slightly familiar. After all, Zhao Feng had come to the Sky Sacred Qin Palace several times, and many people had met him a few times. However, after Zhao Feng entered the ancient desolate realm of gods, his aura and appearance had changed. Within a quiet and elegant room Fanluan Ancient Sound Palace. It disappeared for no reason more than 50 years ago. Li Shui thought for a moment before saying. Back then, the Fanluan Ancient Sound Palace had suddenly floated into the air and then slowly disappeared, alarming everyone in the Sky Sacred Qin Palace. I'll be taking my leave first. After learning everything, Zhao Feng prepared to leave. Swish! Within the room, Zhao Feng's figure disappeared. Li Shui froze. Even as a Void God Realm Emperor, she couldn't see where Zhao Feng had disappeared. He's gone. Li Shui lowered her head and revealed a sorrowful expression. Sigh, Shui, you and he are not from the same world. The old palace master sighed and turned to leave. Swish! Amidst the hazy sea of fog, a shadow flashed and disappeared. In the continent zone, Zhao Feng had sealed his cultivation in case he accidentally leaked his aura and brought disaster to this space. After leaving the Sky Sacred Qin Palace, Zhao Feng would purposely pass by a few places to see old acquaintances, such as Emperor Zimu and the eternally sealed Palace Master. In the rest of the time, Zhao Feng would study his left eye. The transformation of his left eye gave Zhao Feng an extremely strange feeling. He even guessed that his sudden arrival in the continent zone had something to do with his left eye. The ninth god eye. Zhao Feng sensed the different god's spiritual eye. He had once seen the spacetime god's projection, so he was sure that his god's spiritual eye had reached the god eye level. Within the god eye dimension, the dreamy silver ball was as translucent as a crystal ball. Within the crystal ball was a dream. It was like this crystal ball contained all the colors of the world. And on the crystal ball was the image of a dreamy eye, glowing with light. Several days later, in the Azure Island zone, the Azure Flower Continent, swish. A figure appeared out of nowhere in the Azure Flower Continent. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.